I've been working on it. You guys know the Toyota FJ Cruisers? I've been working on one for a one of Mariah's friends. I like them. They look cool. Like, they look really manly and like off-road capable. They look like cool vehicles, right? Holy shit, you cannot see anything. Like, it's just all blind spot. It's damn near impossible to park the thing. And it was before backup cameras came on, like everything. This is like a 2007, I think. You can't see anything. It's impossible to drive this thing. I've been in tanks that you could see around better. But it is a cool car. Zateo. I don't know what drop site is. Zateo is what's his name's thing, right? The former CNN correspondent. That's probably a good source. I don't know what drop site news is, but... Mehdi Hassan, is that who I'm thinking of, maybe? Is that Mehdi Hassan's news agency now? I would say that's probably a really, really, really good source.
What you think about when you're born into a fire?
It is. I just looked it up. It's Mehdi Hassan started his own news agency. It's like, you know, podcast news, online news. It's not like CNN or some shit. Not corporate news. No. No. You're not being sucked in by Hassan, are you? Hassan Parker? No. You ever Google stuff for him randomly? Questions he never asked and shit like that? Let me restart this camera. I understand Hassan's appeal to people, and I'm not gonna tell people they can't watch him, but I think he's disingenuous too. Yeah, you can't keep up in his chat, that's for damn sure. I don't know how streamers like that, they'll pick out one message in chat and get mad at it. I couldn't even read the messages, much less like be like, what the fuck? You calling me whatever? Like, there's no way. Hassan is appealing. And a media darling right now. They're trying to say, like, he's, you know, the manly leftist or whatever. I think an underrepresented, we need a really good, verified, like, combat badass, right? Multiple deployments, Delta Force special operation, something, right? Like a real fucking military badass that has some democratic views, rather than just being like a MAGA cuck. Or not sharing their political views. All right, starting Facebook. That went through. So let me pause the music. Give me just a second, guys. I wasn't going to go to live. It's fucking depressing, dude. So what I heard today, I was working on cars and just listening to podcasts and news. What I heard today, we're going to look into it. is that, you know, Trump put off the attack on infrastructure, on electrical infrastructure in Iran for 10 more days. Said they sent him a present. There was negotiating going back. I heard that today they pushed through and attacked a couple of nuclear power plants, a nuclear power plant, another non-nuclear power plant, some infrastructure lines and shit. And Iran has said, okay, well, fuck it. It's on now. Also, if you work, employed, or live at one of these facilities that are U.S.-based companies or contractors, you might want to get the fuck out of there. Like, we're done playing nice. We're going to start hitting everything we can. So, seems kind of shitty to pretend like. Also, Trump has been teasing this. They sent me a gift. They sent me a gift. What? You wouldn't believe what they sent me. I can't tell you right now. Then he finally tells us. He's like, they're going to give us 8 oil tankers, 8 big, gigantic oil tanks. So I thought, like, they're giving you 8 tankers of oil for free? Is that what you're saying? Like, they're going to give you 8 full tankers of oil for free from Iran? No. They just allowed 8 tankers to pass through the strait. They're not ours. They didn't give them to us. They didn't give them to anybody. They just allowed 8 boats to pass through the strait. Jesus fucking Christ. All right. Here we are. Oh, he's interviewing Mom Donnie? Yeah, he's got reach now. One thing Hassan hates to admit is Destiny got him started. He actually even basically, Destiny's audience would leave Destiny's stream and go to Hassan's stream. They streamed together. They were friends. He even lived with Destiny at one point. When he dropped out of college and his parents fucking hated him and shit, he lived in Destiny's house. Destiny invented the, like, video game / streaming thing. There was nobody doing it, and it was back on, like, Justin TV. Like, way, way, way before Twitch was even a thing or whatever. And got Hassan going with his audience. Basically, when you were done watching Destiny, you go watch Hassan because Hassan's show is after. And Hassan now likes to act like he's the one who invented the genre. He's the one who, you know, was the first person to do it. It's very weird.
Hey Daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know,
he has a bachelor's
Linda
degree.
And her coochie
His parents have doctorates, I think.
Never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Binda land. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Welcome. What I know of Hassan's background was that his parents sent him. So his uncle is Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, right? That's his uncle. A big political commentator, and owns his own show now. But even before he had his own show, he would appear on other people's show and do that. Well, his parents sent him to the University of Miami, and he just got involved in, like, there's these cringy videos, like these pickup videos he did back in the day about, like, picking up women and how to be a pickup artist and get laid or whatever. Anyways, he got involved in the University of Miami. It was just too much partying, right? So he dropped out, had a fight with his family, blah, 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 whatever. He ends up going back to Rutgers and finishing his degree. But there are some really cringy videos of Hassan online where he's like, I'll show you in a second. He ends up getting a degree. I'm not going to take that away from him. He's got like this is off my memory. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I heard he had like a double major in political science and like not broadcast, communication maybe. Like basically what he's doing, right? Politics and media. He has a double major in that. And after he graduates, he moves out to LA. He's kind of half-assed trying to get a job, like with his uncle helping him and Destiny's helping him stream, and he's streaming with him. And yeah, he works for his uncle for a while. before he kind of drops off that and starts streaming. And Destiny basically handed him an audience. And then him and Destiny start moving further and further apart. And now they don't even, they mention each other, but it's like he who shall not be named. It's really weird. But when I saw him do an interview, when he's like, I basically invented the genre of talking on live stream about politics, I was like, you piece of shit, dude. Like, Destiny was doing it for years before you even showed up. You could at least give the man credit. Like, I'm not saying what you build isn't amazing. You have a huge audience. You make a ton of money. You got badass houses and cars and, you know, designer clothes and shit. And you hold that down. You do it every fucking day, 8 hours a day, whatever your contract stipulates. And you do that. But the least you could do is be like, look, there was this other guy that was doing it. And he helped me out get started. And then I fucking took it from there at minimum, right? Let's see if I can find these. No, I want to keep that one. We got here.
Quick note before we get
Yeah, we can do it here. Yeah, it's like frat bro videos. They're really, really weird. They exist. Are they easy to find? I don't know, but they do exist. They're very, very cringy. What would I call it? It was like red pill, dating advice, pickup, trying to think. It was almost like red pill stuff, close to it. I don't know. I might have to find it separately. They do exist, I promise, though. I'm trying to think of what some of the topics were, because I know I could search it that way. Damn it! Now I called it out, and I'm not gonna be able to find the motherfuckers. Frat boy, maybe. I'll find them. I'll do it on a separate thing. We'll get into some other stuff, but I'll find them for you. It's not important. It's a cringy video. I like to watch it and laugh sometimes. Anyways, thank you guys for joining us. I'm Will Bird. This is Cold Beer Confessional. I'm going to be searching for this video in the background. I know it exists. I want to say like he's in an apartment doing dating advice. How to pick up girls. Oh, maybe that's it. How to pick up. Or something like that. They're super cringe videos, but I mean he's made a decent career. He's bigger than I'll ever be. He's bigger than most people that'll ever even be on the internet. You know what I mean? He's done it. He's made it. He does a good job. So there you go. Check him out. He's more brand friendly than Destiny. I would say that. He doesn't do the hot takes that Destiny might do. But there you go. All right, let's start here. I wanted to watch this like a week ago. This video's old, but we never got through it. This is Trump's most illegal war yet. This is going into the intricacies and legality of this operation. Trump literally said today, I want to say war, but they tell me I can't say war because you have to have permission for that, when they were giving him a fake award. They made up another award for Trump. It's called the America First Award. And this motherfucker comes out and looks surprised every time. They make up an award and give it to him. He would have been 78. Oh, that's cool. Got good memories, at least. Anyways, they gave him at CPAC or whatever, they gave him an award. Now, he's addressing Congress members that are sitting there. Mike Johnson, the speaker, is the one who gives him the award. And he's like, I won't call it a war because they say if I call it a war, I have to get permission, so we don't call it that. So he's just basically saying it is a war, but I can't say the word war because really I'm violating everything that has to do with war, but whatever. Start here.
On the morning of February 28th, the United States woke up to news that the country was at war with Iran.
We wouldn't happen to be invading Iran today, would we? You got me.
Well, only Congress has the constitutional power to declare war, but they only learned of the strikes at the same time that the rest of the world did. Donald Trump then addressed the nation in a pre-recorded message on his Truth Social platform. And while he didn't claim that the U.S. was at war with Iran, he was not shy about implying that we were now in war with Iran.
The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war.
But it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Is this a war or not? And this is kind of the critical legal question. At the time of this recording, 6 U.S. service members are confirmed killed in action and over a dozen wounded. Hundreds, if not thousands, of Iranian civilians and military personnel are dead, including the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei. Escalation of hostilities continue as Iran trade strikes with the U.S., Israel, and other regional powers. This feels familiar. It was only like 10 minutes ago that the U.S. carried out an illegal military operation to capture Venezuela's de facto head of state and illegally hijack their national oil industry. And
yeah, it's not what? It's not been 60 fucking days. You know, like it's been no time basically.
Great. It's like we're doing the same thing.
Not been 6 months.
But what's happening in Iran is critically different, and the consequences to the fragile rule of law at home and across the international order could be catastrophic. So today I'm going to break down the 2 determining factors that.
By the way, if you want to support the show, that's how I pay to keep the show running. It doesn't have to make a lot of money, but it does have to fund it, so it can't lose money. Thank you very much, Jennifer Winkler. I thanked you on the last night's show, but I did get your donation, I guess, when you were watching the replay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Make this action an actual war, and thus Trump's most illegal war to date. First, how domestic and international law comprehends war, and second, politics. And that second one might surprise you, as we often think of politics as the precursor to the law. But whenever a sitting U.S. president uses military force to compel another nation to bend to their will, politics and the legality of any given war are inseparable. Look, we cannot do justice to the history of Iran in total. But let's briefly go through the relevant modern events that set the stage for this as a conflict of sovereign rights and security, and thus a war in the classical understanding. In the 1950s, the democratically elected parliamentary leader of Iran nationalized the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. This smelled a little bit too communist for comfort for the West, so he was overthrown in a CIA-backed coup, and replaced with a brutal king who was super friendly to you.
I think I found them.
McDonald's and three-piece suits. The people of Iran didn't like this, so in the late 1970s, there was a popular revolution that overthrew the Western-backed Shah and installed an Islamic theocratic regime. Look, I'm glossing over a lot. It was messy and it was complex. A bunch of Iran's national wealth got stuck in American banks, and a bunch of Americans got stuck in an Iranian embassy before Ben Affleck rescued them.
I think my story is the only thing between you and a gun to your head.
The new regime ultimately proved to be just as oppressive as the last, maybe even more so. Women were forced to veil and denied basic rights, LGBT people were subject to execution, and political enemies were executed en masse. After the revolution, Iran essentially became a pariah state. Occasionally a friend to the US government, like when Reagan sold them weapons, but almost always an enemy. The supreme leader of Iran has never been shy about his feelings on the matter.
مرگ بر آمریکا یعنی مرگ بر ترامپ و جان بولتون و پومپئو.
Like most pariah states, Iran ultimately figured out that its best hope for survival rested in obtaining nuclear weapons. Now, the difference in scope, scale, time, and expense between enriching uranium for nuclear power plants and enriching uranium for nuclear weapons is vast. But it starts with nuclear power plant grade enrichment. And that's what Iran set out to do in the mid-2000s, triggering crippling.
The fact that they've basically slipped in enrichment altogether. Who knows? Who holds the keys? Who says how much enrichment, how little enrichment? Who's testing it? When can we just scream, oh, that's too much, you know, without any validation? Is there a third party that'll validate it the next time we want to go, blowing shit up? Yeah.
Economic sanctions from the US and Europe. But along came this guy, and in 2016, he struck a deal between the UN, the US, and Iran that would forever bar them from acquiring nuclear weapons, but also allow Iran to build nuclear power plants in exchange for international monitors gaining unprecedented levels of access to put cameras on.
Hold on. It looks like somebody's got them here. Let's do copy link address. Before we get too far into the fake war here.
Oh, hey, didn't see you there. I'm Hassan Piker, and this is Bro Tip. This week's Bro Tip is about...
Bro tips. Bro tip. Oh, hi. Didn't you see you there? I'm Hassan Piker, and this is Bro Tips. This was supposed to be like left, but like frat boy style left. It almost starts like a porno.
Oh, hey, didn't see you there. I'm Hassan Piker, and this is Bro Tip. This week's Bro Tip is about bringing out the alpha male in you. A few things to consider when you're thinking about Lady Gaga as the top contender for Babe of the Week should be the fact that she might have a penis. The fact that Lady Gaga might have a small penis does absolutely terrify me. Here's why the 5-second rule works. Because when you start thinking for longer than 5 seconds, you're immediately not thinking with your dick and also thinking with this pesky thing up here that we like to call our brains. So once you start thinking with your brain, you're immediately going to psych yourself out.
What is this shirt choice? Thank you very much, Jen and Jason. You need to start. I'll read the full thing. Give me a second to pull it up. What is this shirt choice? That's kind of crazy, no? Like this wide open chest, all smooth and waxed. You need to start clipping your show and putting them on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. I feel like if you got more exposure, you'd really take off. Yeah, we love you. Thank you very much. I love you. Yeah, his head's also missized. His head's never been the right size for his body, ever. In some angles, it looks like his head's too big, but most of the time, it's always too small. and his shoulders are like, I don't know. It doesn't work right. Thank you very much, Jen and Jason, for the donation. I'm trying to find maybe I never know what's good to clip out, what's not good, what's under 3 minutes. A lot of times I fucking ramble and the point takes too long. It wouldn't make a good clip because it'd be fucking multiple parts or some shit. There's supposedly like AI software that you can subscribe to that will download your video and pick out the pertinent clips and cut out the ands and the ums and my ADHD and getting sidetracked and pulling up weird clips and blah, blah, blah. So I'm looking into something. If I had the money, I would hire an editor and be like, hey, make this clippable, make it watchable, and give me something to throw up on TikTok and YouTube and shit. But I don't have the money. So we're trying to figure out. I don't have the time either right now. We'll figure something out. But thank you very much for the advice. I appreciate it.
Longer than 5 seconds, you're immediately not thinking with your dick and also thinking with this pesky thing up here that we like to call our brains. So once you start thinking with your brain, you're immediately going to psych yourself out.
Hassan Cena.
Next week when we discuss the legendary question of all time, old enough to count, old enough to mount? Question mark? I want to say thank you to Miley Cyrus for showing off her camel toe at the VMAs the other night. I always knew Hannah Montana was a little slut. Don't even try to hide it. Look, this is a classic example of what happens when your father doesn't pay attention to you. You turn out to be a slut who's craving for attention, and then I tend to pick you up at a bar late night and bang you out on the first date.
Hassan's head is 10 sizes too small for his body. I agree. It's never the right fit. It's like God at the last minute forgot a head. He's just like chuckling out of the reject bin or something. Thank you very much for the donation. All right, back to the video. The illegal war. That's where we're at, right? There's nothing bad in there. It's just Hassan being cringy. So there you go.
On every gram of uranium.
Old enough to count, old enough to mount. That's what he said. But I think it was like an outtakes, like joke thing. I wouldn't hold it seriously, but still.
In the country from the moment it's dug up out of the ground to the moment of its disposal.
We've achieved this historic progress through diplomacy, without resorting to another war in the Middle East.
Sanctions would lift slowly over time if Iran could prove it was honoring the deal. There was plenty of criticism of the deal, in good faith and in bad, but the deal was made. Then this guy entered the picture.
As I have said many times, the Iran deal was one of the worst and most one-sided transactions the United States has ever entered into.
Trump torpedoed the deal and
Trump's convinced these people all kinds of things that, like, the other day I was trying to explain how we had to return Iran's money. It was their money. They gained interest, right? We were advised either we return it or they're going to take us to like a world court for sanctions and we're going to owe them even more. So return their money plus their interest for the arms deal that they never received their weapons for. And we did, right, as part of the deal. We returned that money. And the guy's like, you're so blind. Keep your eyes closed. He was paying them for silence. Silence for what? What the fuck do the leaders of Iran have that they wouldn't just fucking put? Obama was paying Iran to not testify against them. No one knows what you're talking about, but they just make it up.
Reimpose sanctions.
They can make it up faster than people can disprove it, right? The saying about the lies made it halfway around the world before the truth gets out of bed or some shit.
A clear signal his objective was the total collapse of the Iranian regime. Now free from international monitors hovering over every Iranian shoulder, Iran went full steam with its nuclear program. In June 2025, the U.S. joined Israel in launching airstrikes against Iranian nuclear enrichment sites. The Trump administration claimed that it had obliterated Iran's nuclear program, but U.S. intelligence agency assessments found that it likely only set the program back by months or maybe years. To that end, little is publicly known about how close Iran is to obtaining weapons-grade enriched uranium. This is incredibly important to the situation we find ourselves in now because it forms the basis of a legal theory that could justify the president in taking military action. Was Iran's nuclear program an immediate threat or wasn't it? In January of this year, Iran's worsening economic crisis resulted in widespread protests. The regime's crackdown was brutal, resulting in the deaths of thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of protesters. In his February 24th State of the Union address, Trump made passing references to dead protesters. Iran's dead protesters, I mean. But his real focus was on those nuclear weapons.
Wiped it out and they want to start all over again and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those.
Again, no one thought that the Iranian leaders were good people, right? Even the people on the left are like, leave that dictator alone. We love him. No, but this is what we didn't want to get drugged into. They're almost, it seems like they're set that we got to have boots on the ground now.
Secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon.
He implied Iran's nuclear program was in a Schrodinger's cat state of alive and dead at the same time, but could still warrant escalation of military force against the country. Iran refused to meet Trump's demands, and in the early hours of February 28th, the United States and Israel launched a joint attack on Iran, targeting Iranian leaders and military installations. The U.S. government dubbed it Operation Epic Fury, which in the annals of idiotic operation names ranks among the lamest. The U.S. used a combination of...
They should have used anything with an E, especially EP. of course, the people on the internet are going to call it Epstein's Fury, Operation Epstein's Fury. You guys are idiots.
Drones and missiles, and Israel contributed 200 fighter jets in the largest combat sortie ever flown by its Air Force. The size of the strike package legally matters, and we'll talk about why in a moment. Iran quickly retaliated, attacking targets in Israel, U.S. military bases in multiple countries, and civilian airports in Kuwait and Dubai. Several U.S. and Israeli deaths from Iranian strikes have already been reported, and preliminary media reports indicate that more than 100 children...
Oh, is it true that they passed a funding bill for everything but ICE and DHS or whatever, but they're funding everything else? I just saw someone was saying that on a live stream.
Died in a strike on an Iranian school. Chaos spread. Oil prices spiked after Iran announced the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Flights were canceled across the Middle East. Travel advisories were issued. On March 1st, media reports indicated that Supreme Leader Khamenei was dead, along with several high-ranking Iranian military officials. We now know that this assassination was the centerpiece of the assault, alongside destroying Iran's most critical defense.
Hassan can't debate. Hassan can really good at getting his point across, at live streaming, at covering topics, at talking about the news. He's not a very good debater.
Infrastructure. That was the task. The purpose was to cripple Iran's capacity to defend itself from further attacks and govern itself without U.S. intervention. This is the fundamental theory of any war. It's a sequence of tasks and purposes that uses force to compel your stated enemy to do what you want. So is this a war? Or to borrow a phrase from one of Trump's estranged buddies, is it just a special military operation? The distinction matters because the U.S. Constitution has
The Senate passed it and Mike Johnson wouldn't bring it to a vote. Oh, of course.
clear rules for both.
Now, if you're concerned about the rise of lawlessness in this country, then now is probably a good time to wipe all your personal and private information off the internet. Your cell phone number, home address, email address, private social media accounts, and
they're blaming this on the Democrats. It's the Republicans that shut it down like 11 goddamn times, dude.
tons of sensitive data are shockingly easy to purchase by anyone online. But malicious actors can't hurt you if they can't find you. So you can fight back and take control of your private information by signing up for today's sponsor, Incogn. Because Incogn wipes your personal information from the internet by searching the internet, reaching out to data brokers and websites.
Maybe this is a weird take and other people don't see it this way, but fuck, if ICE is in the airport, at least they're not out here fucking harassing people, you know, killing people in the street, you know, assassinating people. I'd rather see them there than anywhere.
Directly on your behalf and forcing them to remove your private information. If they resist, Incogn will take care of that too because Incogn fights back. But what makes Incogn truly powerful in taking control of your privacy is the custom removals feature. It allows you to flag an unlimited number of sites where your data is exposed, and you can even have Incogn's privacy experts review and tackle the most uncooperative data brokers and people search sites. Now, I've been using Incogn for years now, and in that time you can see I've been on hundreds of lists, some of which had a high sensitivity score, meaning the broker had tons of data on me. Luckily, Incogn has completed hundreds of takedowns for me in that time. Now, I could never do this myself, so thank you to Incogn for saving me weeks worth of work and adding me to over 40 suppression lists. And Incogn will continue to conduct ongoing removals because even if the broker removes your data once, they'd always collect it and publish it again. So if online privacy is important to you, give Incogn a try. If you scan the code on screen or click on the link in the description, you'll get 60% off their unlimited plan. Or you can try Incogn risk-free for 30 days. And if you do decide you want to keep it, you'll still get the 60% off discount so long as you use my code LegalEagle, all one word. So sign up for Incogn or I'll see you in court.
Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution gives Congress the sole power to declare war. It also grants Congress a...
I wish my nephew would run for office. My nephew would probably make the greatest politician ever. It sucks that we live in such a deep red place, so he'd probably have to move to ever win office. But man, he would... I'm biased. Obviously, it's my nephew, but damn, he would make an amazing politician.
A long list of critical military-related powers, like the power to raise and support armies, to provide and maintain a navy, and to organize the militia, and more generally, the power of the purse. Article 2, Section 2 declares that the president shall be the commander-in-chief of the army and navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. There is a deliberate separation of powers at play here, intended to keep the powers of the legislature and executive in check. Only Congress can declare war, and once declared, the executive is in charge of leading the troops to victory. But simple as that seems, the declare war clause isn't crystal clear. After all, what's a war? Is there armed conflict short of a war that doesn't require congressional approval? There are three categories where presidential use of force is generally, but not universally, seen as comporting with the declare war clause. First, when there's congressional authorization of some kind. History supports the understanding that congressional authorization doesn't need to be a formal declaration of war, whatever that is. For example, in the First Barbary War in 1801, just 12 years after the Constitution was ratified, Congress didn't enact some official formal declaration of war against Tripoli when its pirates were kidnapping American citizens and demanding tribute. Congress simply authorized President Thomas Jefferson to instruct the commanders of armed American vessels to seize all vessels and goods of the Pasha of Tripoli, and also to...
I'm going to kill my camera for a second so you don't see me flossing. I got something stuck in my tooth.
Cause to be done all such other acts of precaution or hostility as the state of war will justify. And boy howdy did those commanders deliver. It's why all Marine Corps officers have a Mameluke sword and what gave us one of history's all-time bangers. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Now look, we all know that the last time Congress formally declared war was on Japan the day after Pearl Harbor, and 3 days later on Germany because Nazis suck. But while the U.S. hasn't formally declared war since World War II, the U.S. isn't the exception. Worldwide, declarations of war fell off a cliff after World War II, and there are plenty of theories about why that's the case. That declarations of war would trigger international law protections for combatants and non-combatants alike, the perception that declarations of war are aggressive and maximalist, and also the specific dynamics of the Cold War and post-Cold War American hegemony. Declaring war just isn't a thing anymore worldwide, which maybe isn't a good thing for a Congress whose constitutional power is expressed in those terms. Congress didn't declare war in Iran, but neither did it give authorization like it had done with President Jefferson or President Bush after 9/11. The second category is when the president is defending the U.S. against actual or imminent attack. This one seems fairly self-explanatory, especially when you consider
that makes sense, right? The president needs time to react pretty quick. Sometimes, before he could rally Congress, before he lays out his plans or whatever. There ought to be an amount of time where the president can act in the best interests of the country or what he thinks is the best interest of the country, and then go to Congress and explain why he did it and what he needs and how we should move forward, his ideas, whatever it is.
Like the Congress isn't always in session to declare war or authorize hostilities. Sometimes the armed forces can't wait for...
By the way, you guys know that Joe Kent, that the guy that stepped down because he's like, Iran's not a fucking major threat to us. I don't know why we're doing this for Israel, blah, 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 and stepped down from his position. Dude, Trump's been bad-mouthing him so bad, and this guy has given his life to service for the United States and his wife's life. Literally, she died in Manbij. And Trump, he's like, I heard his wife died or something. He can't win. He tried to run twice. We were trying to be nice and give him a position. Then he's going to do this. Oh, it's bad. Sean Ryan's doing an in-depth interview with him, I think, if not already.
Senators to get back to D.C. or a long-winded debate to wrap up. The constitutional basis for this category is blurry, but it's some combination of the president as commander-in-chief and also
I don't know that this would ever pass, and maybe I haven't ran through all what are all the fucking negatives about this plan. But it seems to me like anybody should be allowed to run for office meeting the basic requirements, right? As long as you meet the requirements we already have. And then there is a purse. So let's say we give this candidate $10,000 or that candidate $10,000, but it's an equal amount of money. And if you're going to take, if somebody's going to donate or whatever, that's fine, but it's still got to be an equal amount of money. So let's say you're allowed to run with $50,000. That's it, right? $50,000, you got to pay for everything. If you get that from the government, fine. If you get that from donors, fine. But you can't go over and everybody's going to spend the same amount. No PACs, no super PACs, no super duper PACs, no nothing, right? But we just let them run, set it up, do a debate. Commercials, there ought to be the same number of commercials, and instead of these hit pieces from unnamed super PACs in the support of Building Trust for America, 9/11 was bad, PAC, whatever, it should just be, hey, this is my platform, this is what I'm running on, this is this is what I want to do. Boom, commercials out. Run the same amount of commercials in the same places on the same networks, and just keep it across the board. Plus, ranked choice voting, I think, would be awesome, where you put people in order. This is my first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, whatever. I think that breaks us away from the two-party system if we do ranked choice voting. But
the president as the chief executive. The president doesn't get to not be in session like Congress does. President Trump seems to be leaning into this category, but
said he remarried too quickly. Yes.
Nuclear ambitions.
Border Collies. How is your Border Collies? Has a really cool AI project where basically he gets AI to fucking hallucinate, trip out by just feeding it clips inside of clips inside. So you just keep feeding this stuff into AI without giving it necessarily prompts, and it just keeps shooting out more and more fucked up shit. And it's like an art project. How's your project going, Border Collies?
Constitute an actual or imminent attack. The third category is when the president, as commander-in-chief, deploys troops to situations that don't amount to war. Let's go back to the First Barbary War. Before the war broke out, President Jefferson deployed a small squadron of ships on a diplomatic mission to North Africa. While the mission was primarily diplomatic, they were instructed to give hell if Congress declared war. And once Congress gave authorization, they did. But President Jefferson didn't wait on Congress to tell him how to deploy those naval forces. He just did it as commander-in-chief. So what does all this amount to? Well, in the absence of any kind of congressional authorization, you typically see presidents try and shoehorn military action into the second and third categories. Their actions are inherently defensive in nature and/or...
I don't agree politically with Joe Kent. I don't think I would. He seems like he's an America first and was, a Trump supporter, blah, 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 whatever. But I have a ton of respect for what he's given for this country, what his wife's given for this country. You have to have a reverence for the knowledge, the stuff that he knows, the stuff that he's seen, that he's been a part of. He's worked in basically counterterrorism for an entire fucking lifetime, and his wife, right? Overseas, inserted, deep behind enemy lines, right? Undercover. This shit is insane, all the stuff he's done. And the fact that Trump's like, I don't know, he can't win, so we felt bad for him. Heard his wife died. That sucks. Trump's a piece of shit. Museum show is January of 27 through May. That's cool. That's cool. I'd like to see it. I can't make any promises at all that I'd even be anywhere near the area. But if for some reason I can get close to that area, I'd like to see it.
Or the situations don't amount to a true war for the purposes of the declared war clause. Maybe war light, war adjacent, war vibes, aura farming. But that's exactly the problem, because war light has a funny way of becoming indistinguishable from war full flavor. The Vietnam War began as a special military operation, yet turned into such a shit show of a war over time that Congress tried to reclaim its primacy in 1973 by passing the War Powers Resolution. The War Powers Resolution was designed to draw lines in the sand as to when presidents could use military force and when they couldn't. President Nixon vetoed it, but Congress overruled him. So now codified as 50 U.S.C. Section 1541, the president can only introduce United States armed forces into hostilities or into situations where imminent involvement in hostilities is clearly indicated by the circumstances if one of these three base requirements are met. 1, when Congress declares war. 2, Congress gives statutory authorization. Or 3, there is a national emergency caused by an attack on the U.S., its territories or possessions, or its armed forces. The War Powers Resolution reflects Congress's insistence that collective judgment governs the introduction of U.S. forces into hostilities and
yeah, I mean, it's a ways off. I can't make any promises. Hell, I'm fucking trying my best to figure out how to buy a fucking house right now. So obviously money's tight and shit. But if for some reason I'm anywhere near that area, if I can make it in a drive, I'll try to drive up and see it, man. I'll do my best.
Contemplates only these three bases for the president to act unilaterally. But that's not how things play out in the real world. According to fans of executive power, the president's Article 2 power to act as commander-in-chief doesn't even require a real attack for a president to take military action, and the concept of an attack need not be confined strictly to obvious military actions like tanks rolling over national borders. Look no further than the Obama administration's controversial justification for its 2011 military actions in Libya. This is the closest historical analog we have to what Trump is trying to pull off in Iran. A war that isn't really a war, but even if it is, the president has every right to wage it no matter what Congress says. And because everything in this video has a funny way of going back to the First Barbary War, Tripoli is located in the present country of Libya. Now, in 2011, Libya was on the brink of collapse and engaged in a civil war to overthrow its dictator, Muammar Gaddafi, a really weird guy who, and I swear I'm not making this up, once lived in a tent in Donald Trump's backyard. The Obama administration launched airstrikes and missile attacks against Libyan military targets during the Libyan civil war that turned the tide in the rebels' favor. Crucially, Obama's Office of Legal Counsel, the OLC, claimed that the president didn't need to have congressional authorization because this wasn't actually a war. Now, it's important to point out here that OLC basically exists to provide legal justifications for what the president wants to do. Am I being cynical?
It's in Maine, right? Sorry, I don't know if you said that already. I think it's in Maine.
Bear with me. OLC is not a neutral observer that drafts up.
Sage lives in Canada. I could have him go.
Balanced legal opinions. It provides politically motivated arguments that are, as conservative lawyer and former head of OLC, Jack Goldsmith, heralded, famously, promiscuously permissive. In this case, the Obama OLC argued that if the president wanted to unilaterally undertake military actions, that's just fine as long as 1, the operations would serve sufficiently important national interests to permit the president's action as commander-in-chief and chief executive, and 2, the military operations would be minor enough in nature, scope, and duration to not constitute a war. Nature, scope, duration. Remember those key terms. The OLC memo, which again goes out of its way to justify President Obama's military actions as legally not a war, frames military action as a necessary tool of diplomacy to prevent war and not a de facto tool of war. It reports that on March 19, 2011, Obama directed U.S. military forces to act, having secured the blessing of the UN Security Council alongside support from European and Arab partners. They justified this action as necessary to address the threat that Libya's civil war posed to international peace and security. The memo quotes Obama's report to the nation the following week. The U.S. forces had, quote, succeeded in averting a massacre, and that, quote, a massacre would have driven thousands of additional refugees across Libya's borders. I am convinced that a failure to act in Libya would have carried a far greater price for America. So, not a war. The action was short, achieved urgent geopolitical agendas, and the ends justified the means.
Oh, sweet.
I feel like this is important to add. It actually took about 7 months. The OLC offered other reasons.
I see it. It's at the CMCA, right? Maine Contemporary Art. Center for Maine Contemporary Art. Okay.
20,000 troops into Haiti to oust military leaders and reinstall Haiti's legitimate government? Not a war. Sending 20,000 ground troops to enforce a peace agreement in Bosnia and Herzegovina? Also not a war. Again, this was a politically motivated legal analysis. Plenty of legal experts disagreed with Obama's 2011 OLC memo. But if we hold the administration to the generous standards that the Obama administration...
The MAGA people, the now MAGA people, were so upset over Obama, right? But now they're like, I don't know, this is just, this is an excursion.
Held themselves to, we can eliminate partisan bias from the analysis. Under this framework, what would qualify as a war? According to OLC's memo, this standard generally will be satisfied only by prolonged and substantial military engagements, typically involving exposure of U.S. military personnel to significant risk over a substantial period. And this is what the Trump administration seems to be banking on. They argue that Iran's nuclear ambitions and missiles were a clear and present danger to the safety of Americans and the stability of the global world writ large.
Our bases, our people, our allies, all in their crosshairs. Iran had a conventional gun to our head as they tried to lie their way to a nuclear bomb.
Additionally, they argue that U.S. military personnel would largely be fine because it would just be an air bombardment campaign, no boots on the ground. Just like Obama, they took clear and...
But now, again, this video is from a week ago. Now, basically, everybody's saying we're going to have to put boots on the ground. Whether it's Karg Island, another small island, or one of the nuclear sites that we've already bombed. But basically, everybody agrees that Trump's going to put boots on the ground.
Decisive action.
The mission of Operation Epic Fury is laser-focused. Destroy Iranian offensive missiles, destroy Iranian missile production.
Platitude. That's the word I was looking for the other day. That's how Hegseth talks. It's these weird platitudes, like these cliche statements that we're the best and we're about to prove it. They had a gun to our head, but we were the one pulling the trigger. They tried to assassinate Trump, and then he's the one who ultimately puts them in the ground. Like, it's just a bunch of weird platitudes and a bunch of rah bullshit. Hegseth doesn't tell us anything.
Destroy their navy and other security infrastructure, and they will never have nuclear weapons.
But unlike Obama, the Trump administration is hedging its bet and laying the groundwork for a much more prolonged conflict with substantial military engagements well beyond the opening strikes.
President Trump has all the latitude in the world to talk about how long it may or may not take, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 6 weeks. It could move up, it could move back. We're going to execute at his command the objectives we've set out to achieve.
Make no mistake about it. By America's own legal logic that is most favorable to Trump, this is a war. And by the legal logic that most of the rest of the world follows, the war distinction is even more clear. Article 2 sub 4 of the UN Charter forbids the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. There are only two lawful paths for use of force against another state: if the UN Security Council authorizes it, or if it's self-defense under Article 51. The UN Security Council never approved this action, so all that's left to make this war legal under the color of international law is Article 51. Article 51 states that nothing in the present charter shall impair the inherent right of individual or collective self-defense if an armed attack occurs against a member of the United Nations. Which means if someone punches you, you can punch them back, even if the UN hasn't yet approved that. But what if they haven't actually punched you yet? What if they're just winding up, or just threatening to punch you, or just taking karate classes? The Trump administration and Israel are claiming that Iran was preparing to stage an eventual nuclear attack, either against the US or Israel or both. Who's to say? But under international law, the validity of the very concept of a self-defense first strike is, at best, disputed. To justify self-defense, the threat has to be, quote, instant, overwhelming, leaving no choice of means and no moment for deliberation. And the response has to be proportional. So to justify a "I shot him in the face when he was sleeping" out of self-defense legal argument, the Trump administration would need to show that 1, Iran's leadership had decided to attack the US or Israel, 2, Iran had the capability to do so, and 3, it was necessary to use force today because today would be the last window of opportunity to prevent this future attack. That's a very high standard that the Trump administration just can't meet here. And there's a good reason that the standard for anticipatory self-defense is so high. It's easy to claim that someone's about to attack you. It's much, much harder to prove it. Remember the weapons of mass destruction that were used to justify the U.S. invasion of Iraq?
Indeed, the facts and Iraq's behavior show that Saddam Hussein and his regime are concealing their efforts to produce more weapons of mass destruction.
They didn't exist, but enough people at the highest levels of civil service were convinced that they did. In his official statement, President Trump leaned into his war with Iran being an act of self-defense. He repeated that the casus belli of this entire attack was Iran's nuclear ambitions.
They weren't able to use the ones that we so powerfully blew up, but they ignored those warnings and refused to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons.
President Trump has also been very consistent. Crazy regimes like Iran, hell-bent on prophetic Islamist delusions.
It seems like he stopped 4, or is it 6 now? It's 4 from the Army and 2 from the other branches. Promotions from colonels to 1-star generals. So they were getting ready to become generals, and they're all either female or black. All 4 of those promotions seems like, I think the New York Times reported, were halted by Hegseth.
Cannot have nuclear weapons.
Which Trump has been all too eager to tout was no longer a threat because of the success of his June 2025 attack.
That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan.
You can't have it both ways, but this illustrates the paradox that politics doesn't just shape how the law comprehends war, it is the law. Aside from being super illegal, this war is also just terrible politics, which actually makes it super duper illegal. Here's why. Let's take a step back to the 3 categories of presidential power with respect to Congress's power to declare war. Who created these 3 categories? Who decided or ruled that those 3 categories exist? The answer isn't really any judge or statute, it's politics. The judicial branch avoids this topic like the plague. They see it as a political question to be decided between Congress and the president. So the people who carved out those 3 categories are law professors and functionaries in the congressional and executive branches. Well, you might say that's not law. If a judge isn't deciding it, it's just whoever's strongest doing what they want to do. Maybe, kind of, sort of, but also no. Let me ask you this. If Donald Trump were all-powerful as president, almost dictatorial, with the compliant/bootlicking Republican-controlled Congress that he has, why would he and his minions feel the need to justify the war in Iran as either self-defense or not amounting to war? Why would they be stumbling over themselves, giving contradictory rationales? And why, when I guarantee that every single lawyer in the executive branch right now thinks the War Powers Resolution is unconstitutional, did Trump send a notification to Congress within 48 hours as required by the War Powers Resolution? Because they feel compelled to do so. Compulsion doesn't have to come from some old fella in a judge's robe. Trump and his Marco Rubios and Pete Hegseths can feel compelled to explain their actions in certain terms, according to certain legal categories.
Well, Hegseth's going to argue that, so his argument before, they already fired, they ended up firing, who did they fire? They fired the head of the Joint Chiefs. It was a black guy. And the only 4-star admiral that was a female, they both got fired, pushed out. So he's going to say that they're woke, they didn't earn this, they were fast-tracked for diversity reasons, blah, 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 blah. But that's just not true. I mean, promotion boards and the requirements and the stuff you have to check off and the required reading and the studying and the stuff it takes to make general, there is no skipping out on it. Like, they don't just say, oh, well, you're a female, so you don't have to do, you know, numbers 17 through 35. You know, they still do the same thing.
Without a judge ever being involved. That is law, at least of a kind. It's really no different than people feeling compelled to stand in line at the store or zipper merge on the freeway on-ramp. No judge is involved. It's not necessarily about the potential consequences of disobedience. It's about the sense that you must do it. And that, my friends, is politics. Is there a fear of impeachment by a future Congress? I mean, maybe. But fear of consequences drives many people to follow the law. When we talk about the constitutional limits on the president's power to initiate armed conflict, it's law and politics together. It's about the text of the Constitution, sure, but it's also about the big gray areas where text meets the world. It's about new historical cases and new technologies, but always in the shadow of the past. It's about what a president thinks is compulsory, but also what Congress thinks, and the bureaucracy thinks, and the media and the voters think. Let's go back to nature, scope, and duration. A war isn't a war.
What was the guy's name? C.Q. Brown? Was that the guy's name? The combat pilot. He was the head of the, he was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. They fired him without explanation at all.
Or in the constitutional sense, if its nature, scope, and duration is limited in some ways. If President Trump purports to limit the nature, scope, and duration of this conflict with Iran, then he's making a political choice in light of the law. Trump's war against Iran has generally...
And the other one, the 4-star Navy person, her name is Francesca, her last name. Let me Google it. Hold on. Only female 4-star admiral. Admiral Lisa Franchetti is a pioneering U.S. Navy officer who made history as the first female chief of naval operations, a CNO, and the first woman to serve on the Joint Chief of Staffs. She was let go almost immediately coming into office. She was the first woman to serve among the Joint Chiefs. Fired, no cause, no explanation, no nothing.
As an air bombardment campaign without boots on the ground, and thus limited in nature and unlikely to result in many casualties, for now. Apparently, an American submarine sunk an Iranian frigate off of Sri Lanka, the first time a ship has been sunk by a submarine anywhere in the world in over 40 years.
This type of shit makes my dick hard. I mean, I wish we weren't at war and shit, but it's pretty cool to see a fucking sub blowing up a ship. I don't know. That's cool.
Scope? Well, it appears Trump wants regime change and to annihilate Iran's nuclear and military weapon capabilities. That's pretty broad. Maybe not as broad as full-scale invasion and occupation, but broad. And that broad scope seems to have resulted in substantial secondary effects, like Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz and damaging oil infrastructure in Gulf countries. Duration? Yet to be seen.
They're trying to build it almost into like it seems like if they had their way, if Pete Hegseth could snap his fingers and have his perfect military, it would be heavily male, heavily white. It'd be super lethal and not worrying about anything else like sexual harassment claims and blah, blah, blah. And ideologically, it would be like God has put us on this earth to, rid the enemies of Jesus.
But when the scope is as broad as Trump claims, it's hard to imagine it just being done in a few weeks. There's a reason why the founders gave Congress, not the president, the ability to declare a war. Because they considered Congress to be more responsive to and representative of the will of the people. And if a country is going to spend vast economic resources and human lives in a war, the people and their elected
Legend says she'll come see it, Border Collies. I don't know if you're still listening or if you're still watching the chat.
Representatives really ought to have a say in that. A small spark caused by unilateral presidential military action can lead to a huge conflagration. Congress has the power of the purse, and historically, that has been one of Congress's most jealously guarded prerogatives. If the president expends billions of dollars unilaterally in military action, the president is unilaterally putting Congress on the hook to pay for those used munitions, that destroyed equipment, those broken bodies. For Congress, that alone is a basis to claim that no president has the right to engage in armed hostilities without his consent, let alone the declare war clause. Trump didn't tell most of Congress that he was going to unilaterally declare war in Iran. He told only 8 members of Congress. Everyone else in Congress found out with the rest of us when they saw the media reports after the attack had already begun. These are the people who are supposed to be running the country, and they didn't even know we were at war until they checked Google News or CNN on Saturday morning. Trump finally sent a 1.5-page notification to Congress on March 2nd. 1.5 pages. To justify a war that, according to Trump's own admission, is entirely open-ended. In his letter, Trump acknowledged that, although the United States desires a quick and enduring peace, it is not possible at this time to know the full scope and duration of military operations that may be necessary. So this could go on and on. It could cost lives and tax dollars. But Trump offered Congress only the same vague, contradictory justifications he gave the rest of us. Missiles, terrorists, nukes. He claimed he had the authority to unilaterally start a war because he's the commander-in-chief and has a responsibility to protect the country. But that's not inadequate legal justification, and it's just terrible politics. He didn't engage in any real debate about this. No one in Congress signed off on the idea of a potentially long-term spreading conflict that will cost lives, disrupt the world.
When it starts going, I'll advertise for it. I can't guarantee. I don't have a big audience or nothing, but we'll let everybody know where it's at and how it's going. It seems like a really cool project.
And alienate our allies. which makes this not only super illegal, but also extraordinarily undemocratic. It was also terrible politics on an international scale. Plenty of experts have opined that it seemed like progress was being made in the diplomatic talks with Iran. But Trump, for reasons he hasn't articulated to anyone, decided to skip the talk and jump right to the bombing.
And we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil.
What the fuck? They asked him about hitting a desalination plant, and he's like, you know, these people, they cut the heads off babies.
Since he hasn't articulated to anyone, decided to skip the talk and jump right to the bombing.
And we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil.
Which is unlikely to make anyone want to engage in good faith.
They just want to practice evil.
Talks with the United States in the future. Why bother if Trump is just going to send in the drones, missiles, and fighter jets? Trump also didn't.
He is one of the better hosts.
International coalition. Our typical allies.
I didn't know his name, but you're right.
Even in the Iraq War, Bush managed to gather up a coalition of the willing, which gives a conflict some legitimacy. Instead, the U.S. strikes on Iran have been condemned by the UN as a violation of the UN Charter. Look, the Iranian regime was brutally oppressive. Khamenei was a terrible guy. There's a reason the people of Iran.
Trump rallying MAGA against NATO is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Or just remember where you were at when NATO did nothing. NATO didn't help. They weren't here. They hate us. They're a defensive organization. What do you want them to do?
Bravely took to the streets to protest the regime in January, and a reason they're celebrating now. But there's no bad guy exception that lets the President of the United States ignore domestic and international law just because the regime he's attacking is bad. If there was, well, then things would get pretty chaotic pretty fast. If a country can just invade another country because that other country killed peaceful protesters, or because that country defied the rule of law, or tried to stage a coup, well, you can see how that might result in something the Trump administration wouldn't like. But law be damned, warmongers will just do it anyway.
No stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. We fight to win, and we don't waste time.
You know, all this highlights why it's so important to get a great lawyer when you're dealing with your own case. Now, after I started this channel, every week I get hundreds of comments and emails from viewers who are dealing with...
There you go. If you need a lawyer, call. You don't just need an legal team. You need the Eagle team. Call their number if you need them. legaleagle.link/Eagle team. I did it for you there, boss. Oh, here's the other clip I was talking about while we're doing Hassan stuff before we go on to this one. This is going to be about Joe Kent.
Choices and built my own business model, I guess, if I were to use a term like that.
So he built his own business model, streaming politics. There was nobody before you. You built your own. Nothing existed, so I had to build it.
I paved it on my own because
that pisses me off. That arrogance.
That I think is cool. Gaming. This is a concept that I think you can marry with gaming. Political.
He doesn't even really. It's not like he's that big a gamer. Like, obviously, Destiny invented this genre. That pisses me off. Like, I don't care if he brags about how big he is, how much money he makes, the cars he drives, the houses he's got. He's a billionaire, a quadrillionaire, whatever. Right? Just say, hey, I met this guy. He was doing this, and I thought, man, I could do that. Maybe I could do that better than he can. And I started. That's all you got to do.
Commentary. I paved it on my own.
Shout out to Destiny, by the way.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say, yeah.
Oh, you know of him? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But when I watched that video, I was
Look who this is on the end. Look how young he is. You guys know this is Kyle Kalinske from Secular Talk, the white-headed guy. That's wild, right? Look how young he is in this video.
Oh, that's cool. So we have like somebody in the gaming community who's actually pushing back.
Hell yes, that's actually Destiny's the reason why I know about Trihex as well. If Destiny was my roommate, I get him late all the time. I was like, all right, whatever. Well, I don't have anything. Like, I don't have anything. I have no option. I'm in the next 11 days. So much so that, like, Steven was DMing me on Discord.
Steven is Destiny, by the way.
And saying, hey, you know what? If you don't have a place to live, buddy, like, you can come stay with me. It's okay. What a good guy. Destiny is a great guy. Oh, yeah, watch out. He gets real rowdy with that.
And Destiny was probably doing this for a couple years before Hassan even popped up anywhere.
Right? Hope you guys is
it's not like it was close, like they started at the same time. Like Destiny's like, oh, I just started this brand new thing where I talk about politics. No.
Fish and Destiny playing.
That's them living together.
What?
I told a friend that I would play a game with him, and then I would get ready for that Scott podcast show. Listen, don't worry, you're gonna get all my viewers want to watch it are gonna go to your stream.
Okay. I mean,
all my viewers are going to go to your stream. They're going to watch you. They're going to live in there.
I wanted to watch it with you, but it's cool, dude. Friendship is just dead, I guess. Oh, Speedo McGee's your fan that gave me 200 subs so far. No, you're coming.
I thought this was like a convention. I thought this was like the Young Turks like office Christmas party.
No, it's family party. I told you.
Oh, why the fuck would I go to your family party?
I don't know what you're gonna do. Sit around and eat Chinese food by yourself while crying. People in the chat are like, that sounds like Destiny for sure, dude. Your fan base is wild, dude. All right, you want to go out tonight, dude? What's going on? What happened?
And they can still hate each other. He can hate Destiny's guts, but I think he has to admit, like, Destiny was doing this thing, and, you know, he helped me get started. And, you know, I owe some of my starter audience. We got different audiences now, but in the beginning, you know, kind of had the same audience, same people, and I've blown up since then.
You're gonna just stiff him like that, dude? That was rude.
Because they didn't want you to be here. That's why.
Oh, you're like standing up for me.
Solidarity.
It's not gonna hurt my feeling, brother.
No, it's fine.
No, why the fuck would I help anyone else? You're the only person I've ever done that for. You better feel special.
Oh wow, I do, dude.
Well,
I mean, I
super cute, but you're cuter. Don't worry. In a different way.
I paved it on my own.
Paved it on my own. All right, back to this. This is going to be the remarks that he makes about Trump takes reporters' questions after counterterrorism official quits over Iran. Joe Kent. I want to see the other remarks he made where he's outside.
Taoiseach Martin.
I'm going to look that up.
From Ireland, and somebody that we know, we get along with. We've had a very good relationship, and we continue, and we're going to have some big discussions today concerning trade, concerning lots of different subjects. We have a tremendous trade relationship with Ireland, and we'll keep it that way. I think it's going to be expanded very greatly. Probably they want to talk a little bit about tariffs, but I won't mention that. You know, we won't bring that up. But you might want to be discussing that a little bit. But it's an honor to have you, and thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
And may I thank you, President, for facilitating this visit, and in what is for us probably one of the most important weeks in the United States. And in many ways, you're affirming the tremendous bonds between Ireland and the United States that go back to the very foundation of this republic.
Listen to this short right here. I'm just going to play the audio in the background.
Look, I'm not a fan of the guy. If you look at, and you never cover this, if you look at his truths or whatever he went on, if it's X or truth, if you
It's Twitter. Like everybody uses Twitter but you, dude.
look at his truths or his statements, he was all for everything. All of a sudden, he wasn't. He was a man that I met at Dover. He came and his wife was killed. He remarried fairly quickly. His wife was killed, and I felt bad.
The man that's had 5 wives, cheated on them all. But
Badly for him. He ran for Congress, he lost. He ran for Congress again and he lost. I said, you know, he's a guy, nice guy, seemed like a very nice guy. I met him, he was pretty heartbroken, pretty. But
that's awesome, Jen.
I said, you know, it's a shame. He ran for Congress twice. Call him up, give him a job in the White House. Smart. They gave him a job in the White House, and this is what he does to me. You know,
Donald Trump expects you to not even loyalty. This is beyond loyalty, right? This is fucking taint licking, right? Even when you know he's wrong, just agree with him. He didn't say anything disrespectful. He didn't say fuck Trump. He didn't say Trump's a retard. He didn't, you know, he was just like, Iran, I don't know why they're doing this, but I can't be part of it. Iran is not the enemy that they're making it out to be. They're not an immediate threat. It seems like Israel's pushing us towards this. Trump's like, look what he did to me. I gave him a job. He couldn't win. He's a loser. His wife lost her life. He lost his wife. Married quickly, though. He's a loser.
No, being a nice guy doesn't pay off too much. He's the president. Think of it. He loses twice in Congress. Ran not very good campaigns. Should have won.
But that's not what it... I agree. He paved his own path. He can say that. He's saying, I made this model, this genre, this business model. Nobody was doing video games and politics, and I made that. That is factually inaccurate. If he wants to say he paved his own path, fine. He didn't. He didn't invent the genre. He didn't invent, the politics and gaming. He didn't invent the live streaming of it. That was all being done for years before he started. And Destiny handed him that audience to begin with. Now they have different audiences or whatever. There's very little crossover, I would assume.
And 35 million people.
Oh, wrong video.
But he loses twice. How do I get him? I have my people call him, because I didn't deal with him for the most part. I saw him a couple of times, but I never dealt with him at all. I had no idea his ideology was left or right, whatever it is.
Yeah, before they start kissing Trump's ass when they're just doing reports, like Tulsi Gabbard, when she does the global threat assessment or whatever, Iran wasn't a threat. Well, and then they try to question her about it, and she's like, well, I think it's ultimately the president who decides what's a threat. No, not at all. Literally, your job is to gather intelligence to tell us what is a threat around the globe. You said Iran, not a threat. Trump, days later, fucking blowing up Iran, claiming they're an imminent nuclear threat to the United States and our allies. Well, ultimately, he's the one who gets to decide.
Can say this. He said very strongly that Iran is not a threat. Iran's been a threat for 47 years, and there's not a country in the world that doesn't agree with me on that. So I take this guy, Joe Kent, who lost twice for Congress, pretty badly and tough, and was devastated, and I know that he lost his wife. So instead of letting him live out his life, I brilliantly have my people call him and offer him a job in security, essentially, in the White House. And what does he do? He goes out and he says that Iran is not a threat to get publicity. Now, he probably signed up with CNN or maybe signed up with your division of Newsmax. I don't know, but probably signed up with CNN or somebody. But if you look at his tweets, X's or truths, whatever he uses, I don't know because I don't follow him. What he said is 100.
Trump knows everybody uses Twitter but him. Like, he just has to put in, if you look at his truths, if you look at his truth posts.
100% he agrees with me. All of a sudden he leaves. I don't know because I don't follow him. What he said is 100% he agrees with me. All of a sudden he leaves. I never knew he had a problem. Now, I hear they're looking at him for leaking. That's possible. But just so you understand, just to put it to rest, he lost twice badly. He also lost his wife. He's remarried since. He lost his wife. I felt badly for him. So I told my people, reach out to him, give him a job at the White House. This is the thanks I get. Look, I'm not a fan of the guy. If you look at, and you never cover this, if you look at his truths or whatever he went on, if it's
I think they asked him about it in this too. I'm gonna search the. Let me search the transcript. This was an earlier Joe Kent right there, about 11 minutes in. Let's go there.
24 hours after having it, and they would have had it if we didn't bomb them out on the Great Raid with the B-2 bombers 8 months ago or so. You would have had a nuclear war in the Middle East and maybe beyond. I think it would have hit Europe. Maybe not Ireland, but it would have hit Europe. I think it would have been a nice piece of it. It all gets you. It's big enough that you would have been affected. They would have hit Europe eventually.
Mr. President, your Director of National Counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security.
He was your head of counterterrorism, and you always thought he was weak on security.
I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that president should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were, if we didn't do the attack, or if I'll go a step further, if I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there, loaded with cash, hundreds of millions.
Their money.
Millions of dollars. You would have been very happy. This was a wonderful. They sent hundreds of millions. People.
This is very easy to understand. Imagine you're buying a car from me, okay? And I have to deliver the car to you, and you pay me for the car, right? And you pay me for the car, and I'm going to deliver the car the next day. But you go home and get in a fight with your wife, domestic violence. You get in an argument, neighbor calls, you raise your voices, both of you go to fucking jail. Okay? I sell the car to somebody else, car's gone, you're in jail for 60 days. When you get out of jail, you probably want your fucking money or your car, right? That's it. They were going to buy weapons from us, $500 million or some shit worth of weapons from us. They had a revolution, which basically locked everything down. Religious leaders took over. It became very authoritarian, very quick, blah, blah, blah. We backed out of the deal. At the time, we weren't seeing eye to eye with them, so we just held their money in a bank account. It's set in a bank account and it made interest. At the end of that, when we're negotiating the deal, Iran says, hey, you still got, hundreds of millions of our dollars that have been locked down since, the 70s or whatever. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll just give you back your own money. Like, I don't understand. They just sent billions of our dollars. It wasn't ours, right? It was theirs. And if they would have taken us to, international court and got sanctions, it could have been a lot more money.
Forget that. Does anybody remember? Right? You remember hundreds of millions of dollars in a Boeing 757. I think they had two of them loaded. They took the seats out and they put cash. And it was so much that there wasn't a bank in Virginia, Maryland, or D.C. that had any money left. They stripped
That's a lie. All that's a lie.
of all their money, put it into place, sent it to Iran almost as ransom. That's not going to happen with Trump. And nobody ever did anything about it. Nobody ever said anything. Can you imagine if I did that? So they've been a threat for a long time. But they've really been a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago. You would have had nuclear holocaust.
Wait, when you were president last time, you would have had a nuclear war?
And you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site. So when somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran...
The banks ran out of money. Shut the fuck up. You're so fucking stupid.
...threat, we don't want those people because... And there are some people, I guess, that would say that. But
it didn't come from... If anything, it came from fucking central banks over in Europe. Get the fuck out of here. He just went up to every bank in Virginia and took all their money. Said, we got to give it to our friends. I am Barack Hussein Obama.
Not smart people or they're not savvy people. Iran was a tremendous threat, and virtually every NATO nation. And this is the thing: if
it was like 400 million in money plus like 1.3 billion in interest or some shit. It was a lot of interest, but all that money's been sitting there for 40 some years.
They told me it wasn't a threat, and therefore they don't want to help. But when they say it was a threat, and it was a major threat, every one of them, I think every one of them. I don't know if one that said they're not a threat. But when they say it was a threat, but we're not going to help, I think they're very foolish. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because I could say this, that what's happening in Ukraine, we're probably in there for $400 billion. We don't spend any money anymore. They buy it from us and they pay full price. But Biden gave them between $350 and $400 billion of equipment in cash. Somebody will have to find out about the cash. And you could say that wasn't a threat. You know, we're helping them. So we help them. And they didn't help us, and I think that's a very bad thing for NATO.
I bet other world leaders hate to sit there while he just does all this bullshit, trying to talk in circles so he doesn't look as bad as he really is.
Are there any repercussions for NATO, and are you still going to China? Well, yeah, on China, it's a little different story. We're resetting the meeting, and it looks like it'll take place in about 5 weeks. We're working with China. They were fine with it. We're going to say, I look forward to seeing President Xi. He looks forward to seeing me, I think. But I do look forward to seeing him. We have a good relationship with China. China actually has become economically for us very good, as you know.
I just saw, let's see. I saw like a teaser that he's going to be on the Sean Ryan show. I don't know if I guess he's already done it, huh? 1 day ago. I saw he's been on there before, but let's grab, I can't watch 2 hours of this. Let's grab some of this. Here's a 15-minute clip. Sean Ryan clips. Let's go there first. Why I resigned. That's probably the best place to start, huh? Joe Kent does have weird ties like Nick Fuentes and Grayson Arnold and Graham Jorgensen and Great Replacement Theory. And, you know, I wouldn't say he's like a Klans member, but he definitely falls in that line, like Nick Fuentes' line of white supremacists.
Basically, since the lead up to the first iteration,
I made him the national coordinator for counterterrorism, but I always thought he was really soft on terrorism.
Of our conflict with Iran in June. I was very frustrated that we had kind of backed ourselves into a corner artificially. I was and remain to be a big supporter of President Trump's overall thesis of foreign policy, of peace through strengths, of stopping us from getting involved in costly wars. In particular with Iran, I think President Trump was uniquely postured to cut a great deal with it.
It's a trap, and Israel wants us in that trap to destroy their enemies, keep funding their defense, keep fighting their wars, be the big chip on their shoulder where no one will wipe them off the fucking planet because, you know, the USA would come to fucking defend them.
Iran. He had, in the first Trump administration, he had killed Qasem Soleimani, the terror mastermind. once he left office, the Iranians went right back up to their old tricks. They funded their proxies. They were attacking our troops in the region. October 7th happened. America generally was not respected by the Iranians. When Trump came back into office, the Iranians automatically said, okay, wait a sec, this is a whole different administration. We might be able to cut a deal with this guy, but also if we don't, he will use force like he did against Qasem Soleimani. So they stopped their proxies from attacking us. The last time I was on your show, we were talking about how there had been over, I think, 150, 200 attacks against our forces in Iraq and Syria. That stopped when Trump came into office because the Iranians knew who was back. They also knew that President Trump was willing to make a deal and actively seeking a deal. President Trump deployed, I think, a very, very competent diplomat, Steve Witkoff, to go get a deal going with the Iranians. Now, this was a major threat to the Israelis because the Israelis viewed this as the prime time and Trump as the prime vehicle to use for regime change in Iraq.
Because all you do is flatter him somehow. Oh, let me show you this. We're coming back to this. Don't forget where we parked. All you have to do is flatter him a little bit. That's it. And he'll do whatever the fuck you want. They made an award for him based on his campaign slogan and then gave him the award. And he, just look.
And so tonight,
the whole thing's a goddamn circus.
we have created a new award. We're going to do something we've never done before. We're going to honor him with a new award that we'll present annually from this point forward. But he is the suitable and fitting recipient of the first ever America First Award. We can think of no better title.
Yeah, that's his campaign slogan.
For what that is. That's this beautiful golden statue here, appropriate for the new golden era in America. And so tonight...
And the dumb motherfucker comes up like, what? Really? Me? You guys picked me?
And
for
so
the
tonight,
for the award that is literally my campaign slogan? No.
We have created a new award. We have with a new award that we'll present annually. We can think of no better for the new golden era in America.
Sorry, I wanted to see the part where he comes up and receives it or whatever.
Because of his accomplishments and because of his willingness.
Like they just know they have to agree with everything he says, right? And lick the tank, kiss the ring, or he'll destroy them politically with a goddamn truth.
Issue.
They don't even get it. They don't even get a tweet. They get a truth.
Just face this country. To change the global partnerships, to make America strong again. On the comes to do something we've never done before. We're going to honor him with a new award that we'll present annually from this point forward.
We're going to have him drop his pants so he can finish on my chest or live on national TV. That's what he wanted to do. I got a nice little set of bitch tits, and we're all going to watch.
But he is the suitable and fitting. That's this beautiful golden statue here, appropriate for the new golden era in America. The individual that is responsible for all of that success, it's a team effort, but it's led by the commander-in-chief at the top. So we want to bring out the President of the United States in just a moment and thank him for his unwavering commitment to the American people. And because of that, it is our honor on behalf of all House Republicans, all of you here, and all patriots across.
They were at CPAC today, and one of the speakers was like, do we want an impeachment? And the crowd started cheering, and they're like, no, we don't want impeachment investigations. We got to keep control of Congress. Duh.
Across the country, present the very first America First Award to the 45th and the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, come on
out. Look how surprised he is.
Approval.
He had no idea.
Military operation. We're winning so big, nobody's ever seen anything like we're doing. They don't like the word war because you're supposed to get approval.
I can't play this.
They don't
listen.
like the word war.
They don't like the word war.
Because you're supposed to get approval. So I'll use the word military operation. We're winning so big.
And he's talking to members of Congress saying, you know, you guys, it's a war. And technically I'm supposed to have your permission, but I'm just calling it something different. So,
Nobody's ever seen anything like we're doing in the Middle East with Iran. And they are negotiating, by the way, and they want to...
No one's ever seen anything like we're doing in the Middle East. Really? They didn't see 20 fucking plus years of it?
Make a deal so badly, but they're afraid to say it.
I've seen something like it, for sure.
Because they figure they'll be killed by their own people. They're also afraid they'll be killed by us.
My Boy Scout troop was right there. Fucking Kandahar.
There's never been the head of a country that wanted that job less than being the head of Iran. I don't want want it. We listen to some of the things they say. We hear them very clearly. They say, I don't want it. We'd like to make you the next supreme leader. No, thank you. I don't want it. I agree with them 100%. But I do. We did a lot. We settled 8 wars. But I actually thought, when I went on this excursion, as I call it, excursion into hell, excursion into a terrible place, when I went on to do something that for 47 years should have been done by...
Oh, I think all the sick faces were a mistake. They're like in the middle of your name.
The other presidents. And you heard numerous of them said they wished they did it, but they didn't have the guts to do it. We had no choice, but I thought it would be much worse. I thought that the...
I know. I got the Nick Shirley clip right here.
And one thing for you guys to think about is, who are the critics? Who are those people that are saying that you're the bad person or that what you're doing is not right? Well, a lot of times it's the media. A lot of the times it's that person who listens to the media where they've lost that idea of common sense thinking. And so nowadays, the most important thing I feel like for any of us to do is to think, okay, is the cause I'm fighting for, is it a controversial issue? Or is it actually non-controversial, but it's an issue that has become controversial from the critics? And we cannot ever pander to the critics, and we have to keep pursuing a worthy cause. Because what we're fighting for is worthy. America is the greatest country in the world. And people like to act like it's not, but meanwhile, all the other countries had thousands of years to do it. We had 250 years to do it. And whatever made us the greatest country in those 250 years, we need to make sure that it remains that same way, or else we will fall and the critics will win, and we will not stay the greatest country in the world. And so that's my message for you guys today, is to think, really, okay, what cause are we fighting for? Is it a worthy cause? Is it something that's actually not controversial, but maybe the mainstream media or a critic has told me that that's a controversial issue? And when you know it's not, fight. And be ready to become the man or the woman in the arena, because if you don't, the critics will win. And this is the greatest country in the world for a reason. We did it in 250 years. Everyone else had thousands of years to do it, and we did that.
He's basically the white Obama, dude. So eloquent when he speaks. I can't believe it. I've heard people not speak that well that are like, 1/10 his age. You need to hear it again? Yeah, that's okay. I got you.
And one thing for you guys to think about is, who are the critics? Who are those people that are saying that you're the bad person or that what you're doing is not right? Well, a lot of times it's the media. A lot of the times it's that person who listens to the media where they've lost that idea of common sense thinking. And so nowadays, the most important thing I feel like for any of us to do is to think, okay, is the cause I'm fighting for, is it a controversial issue? Or is it actually non-controversial, but it's an issue that has become controversial from the critics? And we cannot ever pander to the critics, and we have to keep pursuing a worthy cause. Because what we're fighting for is worthy.
Does anybody think that if we would have kept the Iran nuclear deal under Obama, Trump literally got rid of it, and Obamacare and all, subsidies and everything, just because it's got Obama's name on it, right? But does anybody in chat think that if we would have kept the nuclear deal, that Iran would have a nuclear weapon and would have used it?
America is the greatest country.
Like, we would be in a nuclear war, which is what Trump said 4 years ago would have been in a nuclear war.
In the world. And people like to act like it's not, but meanwhile, all the other countries had thousands of years to do it. We had 250 years to do it. And whatever made us the greatest country in those 250 years, we need to make sure that it remains that same way, or else we will fall.
Nick Shirley is the personification of a concussion.
The critics will win, and we will not stay the greatest country in the world. And so that's my message for you guys today, is to think, really, okay, what cause are we fighting for? Is it a worthy cause? Is it something that's actually not controversial, but maybe the mainstream media or a critic has told me that that's a controversial issue? And when you know it's not, fight. And be ready to become the man or the woman in the arena, because if you don't, the critics will win. And this is the greatest country in the world for a reason.
How many fingers is he holding up?
Thousands of years to do it, and we did that.
Who's the president? I think I still got the fact. Do I still have the fact sheet open? Damn it, I probably finally fucking closed it. No, there it is. The Iran nuclear deal, correcting misconceptions. This is for the Centers for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation. Let's check it out. Misconception number 1, the Iran deal includes a U.S. payment of $150 billion to Iran. The facts. The money that Iran receives from complying with the agreement is not a direct payment from the U.S. government. Instead, the funds are Iranian foreign assets, which the international sanctions regime prevented Iran from accessing. Under the JCPOA, these nuclear-related sanctions were waived after Iran verifiably completed its initial obligations. The $150 billion figure is also inaccurate. The amount of money Iran could access from those foreign reserves is about $100 billion. Of this amount, about half of it is tied up in Iranian foreign debts. As Treasury Secretary Jacob Lew testified before Congress, the actual amount that Iran would be able to use is about $50 billion. Misconception number 2, the Iran deal included a ransom payment for hostages. After implementation of the Iran deal, the United States sent $1.7 billion to Iran. Some are now claiming that this was a ransom payment for the return of American citizens that were being held hostage by Iran. Lisa Grosh, a legal advisor for the Department of State, testified before Congress that the $1.7 billion was comprised of $400 million that Iran had placed in U.S. foreign military sales, trust fund, and $1.3 billion in interest. At the time, the Iran deal negotiations, the United States and Iran were involved in a legal arbitration case over the amount of U.S. interest the U.S. owed on this fund. As to the fact that the payment coincided with the hostages' release, Suzanne Maloney of the Brookings Center explains that the settlement and the prisoner release were two separate channels. Once the settlement of the claim was determined, the U.S. simply did not issue payment until the separately negotiated prisoner release was completed. Misconception number 3, breakout time is the time needed to develop a nuclear bomb. The facts. Under the JCPOA, Iran's breakout time is evaluated to be at least 1 year. But there is an important distinction between the breakout time and the amount of time needed to develop a credible nuclear weapon. A country's breakout time is the time required to produce enough weapons-grade uranium or plutonium for one nuclear weapon. The International Atomic Energy Agency estimates this amount to be 25 kilograms of highly enriched uranium, 90% or more enrichment. However, even if Iran had the required amount and enrichment level of uranium for a nuclear bomb, it would still need time to develop a viable weapon. This includes miniaturizing a nuclear weapon to be attached to a missile and producing a missile that functions accurately and reliably. Both of these developments are challenging and time-consuming. Furthermore, one untested nuclear weapon is not enough for a credible deterrent. By the way, so breakout time is if Iran dropped everything today and they dedicated everything they had to making one nuclear weapon, it would still take them a year under this, which they weren't doing, right? They had inspectors and all that shit going on. Misconception number 4, the Iran deal stopped Iran's nuclear program. Fact. The objective of the JCPOA was to verifiably constrain Iran's nuclear program and impede progress towards a nuclear weapon. However, the agreement does permit Iran to keep comparatively small amounts of monitored, low-enriched uranium. Thus, the Iran deal does not extinguish all Iranian nuclear activity, but constrains and restricts Iran's ability to obtain a nuclear weapon. To learn more about Iran's obligations under the agreement, view the Centers for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation fact sheet. This came out like right after the Iran deal was signed to help explain it to the public. I don't know. It's pretty good. All right, back to Joe Kent. This is where we parked, right?
Now, President Trump's stated policy had been, and he says this all the time, that Iran can't have a nuclear bomb. Now, the Iranians actually agreed with President Trump, and they had a prohibition, a fatwa, a religious decree, on actually producing a nuclear weapon that had held since 2004. And what the Iranians did say was, like, hey, we're not going to make a nuclear bomb, but we want the ability to enrich uranium, because they had seen what had taken place in Libya and Iraq, and they said, hey, if we go the Gaddafi route in Libya and say, here's all of our nuclear-making material, then they're sitting duck, and then they can be invaded and regime changed at any given time. They saw the Saddam route. If they actually pursued a weapon, or even like kind of BS'd that they had a weapon, that same thing, they would be immediately invaded. So they kind of had this this ability to say, hey, we have a prohibition on a nuclear weapon, but we have some ability to enrich. This was a major threat to the Israelis' goal. So what I watched the Israelis do over the course of the last year was use their government officials engaging with our government officials, but then also their surrogates in the media, Mark Levin, who I'll talk to tonight, mainstream media, think tanks, Foundation for Defense of Democracies, a lot of talking heads on Fox News, to move the red line. So Trump had said, my red line is no nuclear weapons. Ayatollah said, great, I don't want nuclear weapons either, let's talk. So they moved the red line by saying enrichment. Iran can have no enrichment. Enrichment equals a nuclear weapon, which is just fundamentally not true. So that would be parroted from officials in the...
Yeah, we had inspectors in there, right? Third-party inspectors that were going around. And highly enriched uranium leaves a trail. You can't just hide it, right? We can pick it up on meters and be like, okay, you either had a shit ton, way more than you should have of this low-enriched uranium, or you had highly enriched uranium. They weren't in violation. They weren't cheating. They weren't lying. They were allowing inspectors in. Everything was going fine. Trump didn't like it because Obama did it.
In the Israeli government and then also on the news.
I mean, let's backtrack.
Yeah,
I don't think
Trump will never be as good a president as Obama, and that fucking kills him. So the next best thing he can do is destroy the legacy of anybody else.
Now, one of our 18 intelligence agencies had mentioned that Iran was enriching uranium, correct?
They were doing enrichment to some degree. So there was enrichment.
For no nuclear weapons.
But no nuclear weapons.
No nuclear
we
weapons.
knew, all 18 intelligence agencies agreed that the fatwa against actually making a nuclear weapon was holding, and the Iranians were not making a nuclear weapon. So Tulsi Gabbard testified to that last year. She just testified to it again this year, that the Iranians, under the previous supreme leader who was just killed, now the Iranians more than likely are going to change their strategic outlook. That's my guess. My guess is like, hey, a lot of their hardliners are now saying, hey, do you see what this moderation got us? And
right.
Going to attempt to buy one.
We tried playing their game. We didn't do this. We didn't build our weapon. We didn't have something, that to keep them away. Now look what it got us. So whoever rises up to power next is going to be like, well, we probably should have a nuclear weapon, right?
Under spread. That's just my guess. But for the last year, prior to this last conflict kicking off,
I know this seems weird, but imagine you're super, super, super Catholic, okay? Imagine you're super Catholic. Everything the Pope says, the way he interprets the Bible, whatever he says out, if he says you're not allowed to wear green on Tuesday, you don't wear green under penalty of being arrested, or your neighbors might beat the shit out of you because he told you not to wear green. Like, you believe in the Pope that much, right? Everything the Pope says is the word of God through the Pope, okay? What he says, you do, and if you don't, your community will judge you. You may get in trouble with the police. You may be arrested. Somebody might stop and just beat the shit out of you for not listening to the Pope. Imagine that. I'm hypothetical. And then the Pope comes out and says, hey, we're not doing a nuclear weapon. It's not good for us. It's not good for the world. Religiously, we are against a nuclear weapon. It's haram. It's against our religion. That's what the supreme leader did, okay? He put out a religious edict, a fatwa, that the production, stockpiling, and use of nuclear weapons was forbidden, haram, under Islamic law. This happened in 2003 or 2004. It was a moral commitment. Like, these people take this shit seriously. It's not like the preacher down the road said something. You're like, fuck that. Who the fuck is this guy? Like, this is their dude, right? And they were holding to it then.
We did not assess that they were trying to make a nuclear weapon. So that's why they had to move the red line and say enrichment. And so finally, through official engagements and the media continuing to echo this, they basically got the U.S. talking point to change that Iran could not have any kind of nuclear enrichment. And that was a non-starter for the Iranians. And that's how we basically got into the 12-day war, Operation Midnight Hammer. Again, 12-day war launched by the Israelis. We said, hey, we're going to come in, we're going to do a series of limited strikes to take away any nuclear capability that Iran may have, and then we're done. Now, at the time, we had seen, myself and others had seen how aggressive the Israelis were about wanting regime change inside Iran. So when Midnight Hammer, in the lead up to it, we assessed that, hey, even if we did these strikes, the Israelis were going to come right back to us after a couple months and say, no, now is the time for us to do regime change. And that's exactly what happened. The difference is we had robust debates in the lead up to Midnight Hammer. After Midnight Hammer, President Trump's decision-making circle was very, very tight. And that's his prerogative. He can do that. However, he had all pro-Israel hawks like really in his ear. Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, and then on the outside, again, the media echo chamber chamber, knowing that President Trump was watching Fox News, knowing what media he was consuming, and they're all saying the same thing: Iran can't have any enrichment, which basically put us on this collision course towards a conflict. I think the Israelis once again got nervous about a month ago because they knew that Witkoff and Kushner and others in the administration were actively engaging with the Iranians to get a deal, and that's why the Israelis launched their attack, knowing they could force our hands. And that's why I think you saw Marco Rubio and others come out immediately and say, well, yeah, there was an imminent attack, and the imminent attack was the Israelis, Israel, the Iranians, and then we knew that they would retaliate back against us.
Why would they retaliate against us?
Why would the Iranians retaliate against us?
Yes, if they know that the Israelis are the ones that hit them, why would they retaliate against us?
Because they know that basically we fund the Israelis, that Israel would not have the offensive capability without us. The Israelis are very competent at conducting, I'd say, like smaller, more clandestine intelligence type of assassinations. Very good at doing that. They don't need our help to do that. They don't need our help gathering very much intelligence. But for big military lifts that involve, deploying strike packages several thousand miles, they need our help for that. And troops. And also,
they want us to die for them.
In order for them to commit that air power to go strike Iran, they're leaving some of their airspace vulnerable. So they need us to back them up in that regard as well. So without us providing the defense and the offensive capability, Israel can't do it. Now, Iran, in the lead up to the 12-day war, during the 12-day war and after Midnight Hammer, they observed the escalatory ladder very, very carefully. They didn't have their proxies attack us, and they also didn't attack us until Midnight Hammer. So they let the Israelis strike them throughout the entire 12-day war, and they didn't target any of our bases in the region. And then after Midnight Hammer, they shot back an equal amount of missiles at like the empty sector of one of the bases in Qatar, as we dropped bombs inside of Iran. So I think this next iteration, they said we're not going to.
Oh shit, that was my bad. 10 plus.
Basically sent share intelligence with the Israelis, but that makes its way through our
10 plus injured so far.
It's not a perfect system, but it's at least a system. And they'll say, hey, this isn't intelligence channels yet. And then we'll go back and we'll check it to see if it's actually intelligence channels. And a lot of times it's not. And that's the way this enrichment talking point was really spun, because they just basically said, no, America's policy has always been no enrichment. And I went back and I looked, and people can fact check me. The only American official who ever said America's policy is zero enrichment was Mike Pompeo in the first Trump administration. So the Israelis in this Trump administration came and they were basically like, here's President Trump's policy from his last administration, and he contained Iran. This is it. This is the policy, and they echoed it over and over and over again. Whereas all President Trump had said was no nuclear weapon. And so to short circuit the agreement, essentially, that the supreme leader and Trump had that got them to the negotiating table, the Israelis moved the red line.
How long does it take these people to figure out that Trump's a retard? Anybody can flatter him enough to get him to do anything, dude. When Mamdani come in is like and printed out that fake paper. Did you guys see this? Hold on. He prints off this vanity paper that is like, there's one that says Ford to city drop dead. Okay. And this is when President Ford decided not to send funding to New York City, and he got a really bad headline. So he prints off this vanity, this fake paper for Trump that says Trump to city, let's build. And it's this huge fake puff piece. And he's like, would you rather be this guy or this guy? And Trump's like, I like that. Is that me on the paper? Front page too? I like that. Let's make this happen. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. He's so fucking dumb. This is the guy he called a communist, said that he would stop all federal funding. This guy is going to take over. He's a Muslim, and 9/11 was bad. And he walks him right the fuck into it.
On the left, a mock-up of that same front page, but with the current president's photo and the words, Trump to city, let's build. It's part of the mayor's pitch for a big federally funded housing effort that he's seeking. Back in November, the pair had another remarkably friendly Oval Office meeting. The president suggesting the two actually had a lot in common, even though he's often falsely referred to him as a communist.
Let me tell you about my best friend starts playing in the background, and Trump's like, I like that paper. How do we get me on the front page?
On Tuesday night, the president tossed out that word again when he mentioned Mamdani during his State of the Union speech.
And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy.
This is the strangest pairing. David, we've all seen the Dear Leader cabinet meetings where people go around the table and basically, praise the president. He usually sits there stone-faced. He even possibly fell asleep during, while Marco Rubio was speaking. Now you see the smile on his face.
Manage Donald Trump and get...
Look at him. Do that big smile. Look, Mamdani's laying it to him, dude. And he just agrees with it because of his vanity. He's like, Mamdani's like, you don't want to be the guy that, you're a New Yorker, right? You'd like to claim New York and talk about how much you love New York and how your dad and, his legacy and owning buildings in New York. You don't want to be the guy that tells New York to drop dead and get a paper like this, do you? No. That's right, friend. We want this paper. Trump tells the city, let's build back better. Let's make New York great again. Don't you want to be in this paper? He's like, I can be in the paper. And he's like, yes, you can. I promise.
Navigate that relationship, which can be really tricky at times. And here is the 34-year-old Democratic Socialist mayor who is new to this national political scene, who seems to have figured something out here. I mean, they're just like two boys from Queens, like that are able to bond. And of course, today, coming with the props, as you noted,
touching each other, holding each other.
Works with Donald Trump, but also just seemingly to know.
Trump's like, go ahead. Yeah, you can tell him. You can tell him you think I'm a fascist. It's fine. That's what they like.
How to balance
catch a bubble friend
that works for both of them.
Mayor de Blasio, I mean, I gotta say, when I saw that, Gerald,
by basically having their surrogates, their official government interactions, but then also the media echo that. It's a very clever, pretty sophisticated plan, but they got it done through repetition.
No matter where.
That I 100% believe that if you say the same statement in front of Trump enough times, that he suddenly thinks that it's divine knowledge, that it must be the truth. And that he's heard it from multiple. If I just went in and told Trump again and again and again the same statement, in his mind, he didn't just hear it from me 50 times. He heard it from everybody. A guy come up to him and said, Sir, have my virgin daughter. Also, this statement's true. Thank you very much, Mr. President, sir. He heard it from the news. He heard it from lifelong friends. His dad came to him in a vision and told him, like, if you just repeat it enough, Trump thinks it is 100% true.
We have a drastically different strategic goal than the Israelis do. So we will say that Israel is our ally in this. They're basically our co-equal in this. People like me will say, actually, we're not really even co-equals. They're leading because we're having to react to them. But either way, we're basically joined at the hip with the Israelis. Now, the problem.
And Trump's even kind of admitted this when he says, oh, Israel was mad the other day, so they attacked this oil fields. What? Israel is very mad about how things are going in the Middle East, so they attacked this oil field, and we don't approve that. They had a little outburst. We told them to catch a bubble, friend.
They have a much different strategic goal and a much, I'd say, higher threshold and tolerance for chaos and bloodshed than we do. Now, we have stated that our strategic goal, you'll hear Secretary Hegseth rattle these off at his morning briefings that he gives to the media, it's to destroy the Iranian Navy, to destroy the IRGC, to destroy the ballistic missile capability, to destroy all their enrichment. So we kind of have a checklist of like things that we want to bomb, essentially, to take off the battlefield. That's about as far as we've gone with stating what our strategic goal is, which I think is a big problem that we have with the GWAT, is we never really said what our strategic goal was. Obviously, there was get bin Laden and make sure.
Wonder what happens when you give him 72 virgins. They tried that at Epstein Island. I don't know what happened.
Homeland isn't attacked. But I just remember being in Iraq being like, what's the goal here? Like, we're building a government. So same thing. We didn't really learn that lesson. We haven't stated our strategic goal. The Israelis, as critical as I am of our relationship with the Israelis have a very clear strategic goal, and that is to take out this regime lock, stock, and barrel. That's to get rid of the Ayatollahs, the clerical class that rules over, and then also the IRGC, which is a huge lift. It's a big country. Those institutions are massive. They've got a lot of support, but that's the Israelis' goal. Now, the Israelis don't really care necessarily if that happens and Iran then slips into chaos and the Straits of Hormuz remains inflamed and there's a migration crisis and there's an ongoing war. The Israelis don't care about that. They care the IRGC and the Ayatollahs can no longer fund their proxies or cause them problems inside of Israel. So again, you've got us footing the bill, doing the majority of the combat, doing the dying, doing the fighting. We have a very, very murky strategic objective, whereas the Israelis are driving this. They're driving essentially our commitment of combat power. They're driving us having people lose their lives. They have a very clear strategic objective. And this is why I say the number one thing we have to do in order to get out of this is to restrain the Israelis and get our relationship with Israel straight. Otherwise, it's all going to be for naught, and we're going to continue to get sucked in further and further.
I mean, if we're attached hip to hip with them, I mean, it's got to be the same goal, right?
You would think, but it's not.
Is it just not articulated, or is it really not?
I feel like it's truly not. And the Israelis don't have a hard time articulating what their goal is.
Oh, I mean, us articulating.
Yeah, so we just list off the tactical punch list of things we want to bomb to take out so the Iranians don't have anymore. And to me, that's not a real strategic goal.
You know, I want to bring out this up. You had a really good article in the Washington Post, I think it released today, but you were talking about some strategy here, and that made me think the potential deployment of U.S. ground troops makes me very nervous, citing recent reporting that the president is considering seizing Karg Island, Iran's main hub for oil exports. This is you quoted. I just think that
exports, not experts,
would be a disaster. Kent said of deploying U.S. troops there. It would essentially be giving Iran a bunch of hostages on an island that they could barrage with drones and missiles. Are you the only fucking person up there that's thinking straight? Because that's exactly what would happen.
They're going to change the board of peace to the board of war, like the Department of Defense.
You're putting U.S. service members in a fishbowl for Iran to kill because they're stranded on a fucking island.
Yeah, I mean,
this is our strategy.
Yeah,
who came up with this fucking strategy?
It sounds like
Trump.
It sounds like Lindsey Graham. I mean, Lindsey Graham was on the Sunday shows yesterday talking about how great it would be. It would be just like Iwo Jima. I mean, just insanity. And I mean, I don't think the people who are pragmatic in our
Let's start a petition to send Lindsey Graham to Carg Island. And he has to live stream from there.
Are expressing their concerns. I don't believe they're being listened to. Now, obviously, the administration will push back and say, no, we're doing robust planning, we're hearing all voices, et cetera. But when I see ideas like that floated, and there's much worse ones out there as well, basically most of the formulas for putting boots on the ground inside of Iran are problematic. I guess is too late of a way to put it. They're bad plans.
They've already stated they want us to do it. They're ready for it.
100%. I mean, that would be handing Iran basically a strategic victory, because once they get our troops on the ground there, they're going to be able to kill some of them. We're going to take losses. And
even if we're killing 50 of their guys for every one of our guys, the media is going to be bad, and people have no tolerance for fucking soldiers dying in the Middle East.
And we fall back into that cycle. Once we take losses somewhere, we say, oh, no, now we can't leave. We have to stay to avenge our fallen. We can't be all for nothing. We have to stay. We have to keep fighting. We saw this over and over again.
This is the Joe Rogan podcast.
And in the GWAT, every single time we talked about any kind of withdrawal in Iraq or Afghanistan, it was the same argument. We've lost too much here. There's still more that we could do. So, I mean, in terms of the Carg Island, that makes me nervous because I have heard so many people like Lindsey Graham and others that are not military people, that are not in the Pentagon, that are not reading intelligence every day, talk about it very flippantly. Like, oh, we'll just take that island. We'll just take their oil. I want to tell you guys, like, it's not 2003 anymore. You can't just put guys there and they'll occupy it. Like, there's ballistics, there's drones. They would be sitting ducks in that area. And as a matter of fact, like you said, the Iranians would probably be like, please take the island. We'll roll out the red carpet for you guys.
I mean, do I need to read your bio again? Why is he taking advice from Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz and whoever else that's just career bureaucrats?
This is the problem.
And then you got a guy like you in there with tons of experience in war and intelligence.
Yeah, and there's others too. There's plenty of us in there that
I'm sorry, this is Kill Tony.
Give him much better advice. I just hope the president reflects. I know he's mad at me. I hope he reflects, and I hope he looks at the advisors he has around him currently that got him to the state that we're in right now, because we're not in a good state. He knows that, and he needs to start listening to people that are going to give him better advice that can give us a clear pathway out of this.
Who are some people that would give him better advice other than yourself?
Vice President DNI Gabbard and their teams, I think, are absolutely key.
The Vice President and the DNI.
And the DNI, yeah. Yep.
Trump has basically been talking shit about J.D. Vance for not being supportive enough of the war. Seems like J.D. Vance maybe trying to not put out a bunch of clips as if he wholeheartedly supports what's going on in Iran in case he has to run in 2028, or in case, after midterms, Trump is, let go out to pasture or something. He doesn't want that on his record of him being like, yeah, we should go in and we should put boots on the ground, just like Iwo Jima, like the shit Lindsey Graham's saying. And Trump does not like that he is not as supportive as he thinks he should be.
And there's good people at the Pentagon that can give you options.
So he's not taking advice from his own vice president?
I don't know. I wasn't at the vice president's level. I think they have a good relationship. I just, based on what I've seen and based on what we've seen in the public sphere, he has been taking more advice, obviously, from Lindsey Graham, from Ted Cruz, from Mark Levin on TV, than he has been from people who may say, hey,
Mark
sir.
Levin on TV, that's who's getting advice from? Fucking
in terms of how easy and great of an idea this will be. I mean, so the media ecosystem, they're not giving him tactical military advice, but they were, I believe, in my opinion, a big part of echoing the Israeli talking points about no enrichment. You have to strike now. If you strike now, you'll be a hero. There was also this false narrative basically that said, like, hey, because the people were on the streets in January, if you take a couple strikes right now and you really hammer them, the rest is going to be easy. It's going to be a cakewalk. The people are going to rise up. They're going to overthrow the regime. They're going to love you. They're going to cut a deal. It's going to be quick and easy like Venezuela was. I think Venezuela did a lot to give us some false confidence in how quick and easy a regime change, regime modification, whatever you want to call it, can be. So people like Levin, people on Fox.
But we didn't even regime change in Venezuela. We took a horrible dictator and made his second in command the first in command. Like, we didn't even regime change.
New York Post, New York Times, etc. A lot of those talking heads, coincidentally, not so coincidentally, a lot of them were the same people who talked us into the Iraq War, convinced him how quick and easy this would be. But I mean, to your point, I think if he took some more advice from Vice President, from DNI Gabbard and their teams, I think we'd be in a much better spot, and I think we'd be able to carve our way out of this mess.
Man, wow. How many troops do we have over there right now waiting? Is it 2,500?
I don't know. I mean, I see what you see on the news. I'm disconnected from all that.
How many has Israel sent?
Far less than us. Most of their military operations are taking place in Lebanon. They're doing a lot of air support and power projection via air, which is heavily funded by us.
Are they talking about sending ground force?
If they could, it'd be tiny. They just don't have, Israel,
so we'll do it.
So we would have to do it. 100%.
Okay.
I mean,
we'll do it for them.
They could do a commando raid or something, That'd be about it. But in terms of any kind of meaningful hold ground, even for a limited amount of time, that would have to be American boots.
Oh, okay. That's kind of what I thought. But, I'm getting angry, Joe.
I can tell. I hear you, man.
Really
I hear you.
fucking angry. But, oh, man. It just... No new wars. It just echoes in my head all day long.
Yeah.
And here we are. Right back in war.
Completely avoidable. And I pray, again, he listens to some of the voices that can get him out of this. I think they're still...
They tried claiming this isn't a new war. We've actually been in war with them for 47 years. He's just trying to finish a war that's been going on for almost 5 decades.
Time, but this is very bad, and this could get worse. And I think platforms like yours are important because people like you, big podcasts. I think you guys brought a lot of people out to vote for President Trump, and I think it's really important that all the people that are watching this show and all the other podcasts call their senators, call their representatives, make their voice heard, because there is again that media ecosystem that kind of exists oddly in the White House. We've got to penetrate through that. They were listening during the campaign, and I think they'll listen again if people take this as a call to action.
No matter where you're watching the Sean Ryan Show from.
Oh, this podcast. This is the Mel Robbins podcast. I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about something else. This is Mel Robbins.
Charlie was one of the most vocal advocates.
The Diary of a CEO.
Against a regime change war inside of Iran.
Are you saying that you don't think that the kid that's been propped up to have killed Charlie is the guy?
I'm not saying that at all. I mean, that kid, his fingerprints are on the gun. That case is going to be made. What I do know is that NCTC was investigating any foreign linkage, not necessarily just to the suspect, but any foreign linkage that could have taken place. There's foreign connections we need to look into.
What are those connections?
Butler itself, no one is saying is linked to the FBI, but 2 days before the Butler assassination attempt, we arrested a guy named Asif Merchant. They arrest Merchant, and then 2 days later, a sniper tries to kill Trump at Butler. My question was always, is there any linkage between anyone that Merchant talked to and the people who were there at Butler and Crooks? Tucker's investigative journalist that works on Tucker's team found Crooks' online persona.
What's going on with the Butler assassination attempt?
So,
are we looking into that?
Yeah, I think there's basically two schools of thought as to what's taking place right now. And how
it was weird. Trump wanted everything. He wanted to know everything. He wanted to know who this guy was. He wanted a stool sample. He wanted his background, all of his friends, where he's ever been, everything online, blah, blah, blah. Then Trump gets elected. He's like, oh, no, the guy had a couple different social media accounts kind of tied to Russia. You know, now we figured it all out. It's fine. Go back to sleep, everybody.
With Iran, that Trump should know better, and I think he does know better. I just gave you the more than likely. I think he just got a lot of bad information. There's a much smaller chance, but I think it can't be ignored, the fact that there was several assassination attempts against President Trump that really haven't fully been explained. One of which, the Butler itself, no one is saying is linked to the FBI, but 2 days before the Butler assassination attempt, we arrested a guy named Asif Merchant. He was just prosecuted and I think going to jail. We arrested him for being recruited by Iran to come here and attempt to assassinate President Trump to avenge the killing of Qasem Soleimani. Merchant had a FBI informant that was working with him. Merchant didn't know he was an FBI informant, obviously, and they basically set up a scheme to conduct an assassination against President Trump using a sniper. They arrest Merchant, and then 2 days later, a sniper tries to kill Trump at Butler. I wanted to look for potential linkage between those events, was completely shut off and blocked from that.
You were?
No, NCTC was, the National Counterterrorism Center.
Why would they cut you off? That seems like definitely possible terrorism, especially considering the first one was supposedly sent by Iran.
Certainly. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Again, we were told, hey, the Merchant trial is ongoing. So you can't look into any of the information. You can look at a little bit of the information, but we can't really do much there. But my question was always, is there any linkage between anyone that Merchant talked to and the people who were there at Butler and Crooks? Because we can say all day long they're not linked, but are we sure that we had everything that Merchant was doing under control? Is there any linkage between those two events? From my vantage point, I didn't see that investigation being done very thoroughly. I think this matters.
Who's conducting that investigation?
That was all the FBI.
Oh, the FBI.
Yeah. I think this matters in the terms of what we're talking about.
Your cross-eyed friend Cash.
You had the other assassination attempt at West Palm Beach. And then you had, once Trump came into office, you had several breaches of his security perimeter. You had the famous stoppage of the escalator at the UN. You had, when he went out to dinner, there was the table of code pink.
The stoppage was his own fucking guy. Shut the fuck up. It was their own media team did it. His own cameraman.
Who sat down next to them. And then you had the police officer, who I think is probably a good patriotic American, but he was armed. He wasn't part of the president's detail, come up and shake President Trump's hand. So basically circumventing the Secret Service. And then you had the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And Charlie was one of the most vocal advocates against a regime change war inside of Iran. And he was advocating heavily that we change our stance in regards to our relationship with Israel. He was in the White House lobbying President Trump to not attack Iran in the lead up to the 12-day war. So Charlie would have been very, very much against what's going on right now. He's then killed in September. And so I think it's irresponsible for us not to look at all of these things on a broader timeline and see where they fit into what's taking place.
Yeah, people were trying to say Cash's shit was like a nothing burger because it's like, oh, it looks like a guy on vacation. Yeah, but if they got that, what else do they have? I don't think they released his vacation photos to make him look bad. I think they released his vacation photos to say, look what we got into.
Now,
are you saying that you don't think that the kid that's been propped up to have killed Charlie is the guy? I'm
not saying that at all. I mean, that kid, his fingerprints are on the gun. That case is going to be made. What I do know is that NCTC was investigating any foreign linkage, not necessarily just to the suspect or Robinson, but any foreign linkage that could have taken place regarding that case. And again, we were stopped really early on from thoroughly investigating. And all that I can say is that we had more foreign connections. I'm not saying a foreign government, but I'm saying foreign connections to look into, to thoroughly do our due diligence from an investigatory standpoint. That, in my opinion, was not done. Now, the FBI will tell you, we got our guy. He turned himself in. His fingerprints are on the gun. There's been some debate over whether or not he confessed. I guess we'll see when he goes to court. But now that the case is being handled 100% by Utah. And again, considering how prominent Charlie Kirk was, I think it's important that we continue that investigation and that every angle is looked into and then a complete investigation actually takes place. And from what I saw, that did not happen.
So this is going to wind up just like JFK.
I hope not. I hope not. I think we have the ability to really look into every aspect of it, no matter what the truth is. And no matter where that leads us. And again, like, look, people are saying, like, why are you speaking cryptically? I can't speculate. I can only tell you what I know. And the only thing I know for sure is that our due diligence was not done on looking at the foreign links. The rest of the case can be rock solid. If they've got Tyler Robinson,
there are foreign links.
There's foreign connections we need to look into.
What are those connections?
That I can't get into because that's all tied up inside of classified channels essentially. But there was more work we needed to do. And now I'm not saying, like, you know how
basically it's like air traffic and shit. There's a bunch of foreign planes and shit landing here and there. It's mostly open source people that figured it out.
Investigation works. You chase down 99 leads and 100 leads and 99 of them are BS, and you get one good one. So even the things that I know of that I don't want to speculate about, half of them could be 75%, 90% of them could be trash leads, but there's stuff that we need to look down. Charlie was a very influential figure. He traveled the world. He traveled the nation. There was a lot of people from all over the place looking and watching Charlie Kirk speak there. There was people speculating about what was going to happen to Charlie Kirk online ahead of time. So there's more work that we needed to do in regards to foreign linkage to the Kirk assassination.
Man, I just don't understand why you wouldn't want to know
everything.
Why you wouldn't conduct a full investigation on who tried to kill you if you're the president of the United States.
Right.
That does not compute in my brain.
Right.
Why would you not want to know?
Especially after we were told for quite some time that Thomas Crooks was an enigma. We didn't know who he was. He's just this crazy kid. He had no online footprint. You know, we were told for a while that they couldn't get into his devices, that they were locked, couldn't get into his devices. And then when they said they finally got into his, the FBI finally said they got into his devices, they're like, no, there's nothing there. Well, fast forward a couple months, and Tucker Carlson's investigative journalist finds a full online persona of this kid. He's communicating with other people. He's commenting on YouTube videos. He's interacting with people that are overseas. So there's more work there to be done, clearly. And there was a big rush to say, like, well, we shot the sniper. He's kind of an enigma. We don't know anything about him, but case closed. You know, cremate the body 10 days later.
Tucker's the one that came up with all that?
Tucker's investigative journalist that works on Tucker's team found Crooks' online persona. Yeah.
And the FBI didn't?
The FBI didn't report it. I don't know what the case is.
Where does Tulsi stand in all this stuff?
She's obviously in a tough spot, so I don't want to say anything else that's going to put her in a tougher spot than she's already in. She's doing the best that she can.
How many people up there are against what we're doing?
It's hard to put a number on it. Look, I mean, you know how the government is.
Maybe a percentage.
Yeah. Most people that serve in the government, I found, they want to make their boss happy, and they don't want any friction at work, and they want to salute and they want to move out.
You know, I think that's where everybody's lost it.
100%. I agree.
Fucking job is to protect and serve the people of the United States.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and look, there's a lot of good patriots that are still there who think that they're doing the right thing. And this was a dilemma that I had. I was like, well, do I stay here and do I soldier on and be a good soldier? And you know, do I show up every day and, you know, do my darndest? And then if the big strategic picture gets messed up, well, that's not really on me. You know, I did that for 20 plus years in the military and in the agency, and kind of see where that got us, right? When we knew better, see where that got us. And so, like I said, you know, 20 plus years ago, I made a promise to myself if I ever had the ability to speak out and do.
They've got guarantee they got Kash Patel in a panic saying, "Oh fuck, what all was in that email account?"
Try to get us on a better path, I would do so.
Ribeye 15 just
Ribeye
for 12 months.
Look out, Ribeye. You've been here for a year. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
If my late wife hadn't gotten killed, if I hadn't been through the experiences I had been through, I don't think I have the clarity and the courage to do what I'm doing now. So I am sympathetic to people who are inside, who are still like, hey, I'm just a guy. I'm not that important. I'm trying to do my job. I'll do what I'm told. However, the people who came in, you know, with President Trump in key leadership positions that are part of this movement and leading this movement, I think they've got to reflect on what we ran on, because this is not what we ran on, and they have to live with it. And so they can either make a decision to try and.
My nickname in high school was Brown Eye. Kind of makes us, I don't know, cousins or something.
It's a situation from inside, but once they realize they can't influence that situation inside, then they have a choice to make. Do they stay and be complicit with it, or do they leave and try and get us back on the right path?
No matter where you're watching the Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this at all,
IMO with Michelle Obama is the name of this podcast. IMO with Michelle Obama, if you want to check into it. That's right. God, I hate elder millennial. The elder millennial is taking a stand against pharmacists. The elder millennial is taking a stand against pharmacists, saying they shouldn't exist. They shouldn't have a degree. Why do you go to school for 8 fucking years to just count pills and hand them to me? Like, throw out all the safety, throw out all the verification, throw out all the side effects, how many times you know how many times a pharmacist has caught a doctor's mistake, especially if you're not going to your primary care doctor that really knows you, but like you went to a clinic or a walk-in or emergency room or whatever, that has kept somebody from fucking dying? Probably millions of times, right? The other millennial is on a campaign that pharmacists shouldn't exist, that anybody can count. If, oh, I'm supposed to have 30 pills? Well, there's 50 here, so there's 30. I'll keep these 20. Here you go. Here's your pills.
Things in Iran are escalating significantly. It's Friday, March the 27th. If I'm giving you the date, that is not good. Despite the 10-day deadline and agreement that there would be no infrastructure struck, the United States and Israel decided to hit a bunch of Iranian infrastructure, nuclear power plant, water supply, another power plant, and steel factories. And Iran has said bet, and they are going to respond in kind.
Hey, Gen X, if you're still here, Buds, who else? The people from Grill Sala, you guys with the friend in Iran, have you guys heard from him recently? I know they don't have internet and shit.
We're actually telling people that if you work for a U.S. or Israeli company over here, you better get out of Dodge. In addition, the Houthis have said they're now going to join the war and are likely to close the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which makes the closure of
Grassroots was another one. You guys all have a friend over there, right?
Hormuz about twice as bad. Fuel shortages are starting to occur in different countries around the world. Diesel just hit $10. And
Phil still kind of does stuff. Right now, he's on a big crypto scam we just covered a few days ago. Well, maybe a week ago. He's on a big crypto pump and dump scam, stealing money from his audience.
Fuel shortages are starting to occur in different countries around the world. Diesel just hit $10 in many parts of Canada. Highest diesel prices ever in history have just hit the state of Arizona. And the markets no longer believe the words of this administration. I told you that would happen. Here it is. WTI has passed $100 again. This is all of the worst case scenarios playing out in real time, one right after the next. I'll keep you posted. Thanks. Things in Iran are escalating significantly. It's Friday, March the 27th. If I'm giving you the date, that is not good. Despite the 10-day deadline and agreement that there would be no infrastructure struck, the United States...
Yes, Kaz, I haven't seen him. I asked today, and others said the same thing. I know there's a big blackout going on now. Some from Iran themselves, some from us. We're blacking out a lot of their media. They asked Trump, since we, they don't have internet, they don't have a way to communicate. Are we sure they're not starving to death? Or they have food and water? And he's like, remember when we had dinner together? Doll face.
How does a fertilizer shortage increase your gas prices? It's totally a thing. My friend Jobu asked me something along these lines earlier, so I thought I would do a video explaining it. When you have really high-priced fertilizer, mainly because of fertilizer shortages, what happens often is a lot of farmers will switch or swap from maybe planting corn that year to maybe something else like soybeans. That's usually what they prefer. And as you may know, corn is used to make ethanol, which is something we put a lot of.
We still cover Phil every once in a while. It's just not as interesting now. He doesn't do as many lives. It's a lot of the same shit. It's all just always a money grab, dude. Right now, he's got all of his elderly followers convinced that they're millionaires. They pay $5,000 for a pump and dump crypto coin. Then they go on their little website and it tells them that it's actually worth $1.4 million now. But they can't cash out for 2 years. And who's going to cash out before that? Phil and all his friends.
A lot of people don't realize that one of the contributing factors to higher gas prices under the Biden administration, especially in 2022, was really high corn prices, making ethanol really expensive. So you had high oil prices and high ethanol prices.
I don't care. Fuck that dude.
You have high oil prices and low ethanol prices, but that's about to change. But there's one thing different this time than last time. And that is that China, as you know, they're not buying our soybeans like they used to because Donald Trump is a person that exists in the year of our Lord 2026. So the question is, what will farmers do this time around if they don't have any confidence that they can sell their soybeans and they just got massacred on soybeans? So that's a thing that's likely to happen. Maybe they don't switch. Or maybe
Trump loves soybean farmers.
So the causes might be slightly different this time, but the result will still be the same. You're still going to have higher ethanol prices due to higher corn prices, and that is going to contribute to more and more gas prices rising. Hope that helps. Thanks. How does a fertilizer shortage...
Get ready for food. We'll always have food. It'll just be whether you can afford it. Like, we'll pay, while other countries are starving, we'll pay even more to make sure we have food, that we don't have some type of shortage, right? We have no problem, like, starving out fucking Brazil because we bought all the fucking whatever that was supposed to go there and brought it here. It'd just be, hey, can we afford it? You know what I mean? That kind of deal. But still, shortages around the world, price increases in first world countries, oil prices, the normal. At least we're out of winter, right? At least we're out of winter and heating bills aren't going to be outrageous, but power plants are. Power plants are still running. We're going to use a lot of AC this summer, so get ready for that. I don't know. Since the stock market has been in the red for a month now, so time in the market almost always beats timing the market. So yeah, if you find a dip in the market, buy it. But time in the market is always going to beat out timing the market. So putting money in and just fucking leaving it there. The stock market typically rises at a rate and then not pulling it out for a while. But yeah, oil, gas, AI, the stuff that Jen just said, there's a lot of stuff to get into. When Iran settles down, whatever that might be, and something figures out, the stock market will jump again. Just like when Trump said, oh, there's a 5-day pause, the stock market went like crazy and people made billions of dollars trading off insider information then. All right, guys, that's it for me. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys. Yeah, put it in some type of ETF, some type of money managed fund, blue chip stuff, and then just leave it there if you got it extra. It's hard to time it and be like, okay, in 6 months, I'm going to double my money. That's incredibly hard, or people would do it all the time, you know. But throwing it in something that typically goes up, leaving it there, not too bad. Support the show, guys. My own personal stock market is when you guys send me money to pay my bills. I don't have money to invest in the stock market. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me. Listen to me, bitch, complain, moan, whine. I don't know. You guys have a good weekend, okay? I got some work to do. I need to make probably some TikTok videos out of it. I'm working on a car. I'm working on the office. Working on the fucking campground. Working on everything. 200 bits. Thank you very much, Ribeye. I appreciate it. But I got a couple things to do. I've been working on an FJ Cruiser. I was talking in the intro before everybody got here. I like them. They're like really manly, like off-road capable. They're a cool looking car, the FJ Cruisers from Toyota. But I drove one for the first time really today. I mean, I've been in one, but I really drove one and paid attention. It's impossible to see out of that motherfucker. Like, holy fuck, talk about blind spots. I've been in tanks, and this was a 2007 before backup cameras were on everything. Like, holy fuck, dude. I've been in tanks that you can see around better because they have camera systems and shit. You know what I mean? Periscopes. It's incredibly hard to back this motherfucker up, park it anywhere. But it's got a miss. So shout out to Drewski. That's right. Conservative American woman skit. Was it just a short?
Sweet cream foam chai ice matcha. And Bella will have.
That's one of them, but I saw the other one here. How conservative women in America acts.
Get on your feet!
War is raging in Iran.
We're praying for all the soldiers and troops.
That's great that you're praying, but
how about all the kids that died when the USA hit the towers?
It broke my heart.
Take your rest day, bud. Good for you. So he did Erica Kirk. Erica Kirk calling him a racist and sent a cease and desist. It's very funny. Go watch the Drewski skit. Why do you have a fake boyfriend? Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. I'll see you about the next one. Have a good night. Support the show. By the way, I do have to pay the bills. Rent's coming due on the 1st and shit. So shout out to the people who sent donations. And if you want to support the show, if you want to keep it going, support the show. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you about the next one. Have a good night. Love you. See you. Bye.
But I can tell
Mariah told me if I come home to bring a rubber hammer.
this particular show.
So here we go, guys.
Have the fork and balls to call out the people.
She can't. I mean, she might try to scare him by bringing a lawsuit. She can't win a lawsuit, right?
The rest of the world do that.
Parody is well protected, and he doesn't say anything in it. He just dances in front of fireworks and shit.
Listen off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best,
It's more like she thought it might scare him or something, you know. He didn't even use her name. He said conservative American white women or something like that. Invest in Texas, it's booming.
And they say that I'm a lunatic. Well, listen, bitch, I came equipped with a quick wit and a 6th sense for the stupid shit. Where my true believers? Y'all need Jesus. Praise the Lord, head to the extreme. All these false fucking prophets who profit off of gossip. Worshipping Trump's cock and begging for a throat deposit. Swinging fucking meat.
Iowa State, Tennessee won versus Iowa State.
Beating his chest like he's
I saw there's only one person in America that their women's bracket was still accurate.
I can quench that thirst. Baby eating lizard people, alien sex. What's next? Trump in a dress, fucking.
I don't keep up with it like I used to, but I heard people talking about it earlier on, or I saw people talking about it earlier on social media.
Powers. Here we go. I think I started some shit.
How do you sanitize a latex hammer? It's more like a pick on one end and a hammerhead on the other, and then a faux wooden full latex handle. How? Maybe a UV chamber or something.
Better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. I used to find clues too when I was high on shrooms. I found myself a tongue.
It definitely needs to be sanitized. That is true.
I found some of his meat rockets. I strapped it to my shoes and then I flew through the roof. I found myself in orbit strapped to an F-16. High on amphetamine with Trump in between. Put on a light coat of baby oil and saluted the troops. He tapped me on the shoulder and said, "This is gonna be it." Whoa, wait. Stop. What? I'll get my files.
It's been places not for the faint of heart, I'll tell you that much.
Dude, come on. Seriously. My mom's an alcoholic. Give me a...
When you guys send donations to people, not donations, when you guys send like Venmos and Cash Apps and shit, we're all like putting like butt stuff and like hookers and cocaine in like the note section they make you fill out, right? I'm not the only one. When I go see an accountant's, they're not gonna be like, why did you send $40 for extra special butt stuff? And I'm gonna have to explain like, oh, it's a joke. Like they know that's happening, right? Not just me.
We say it isn't so. Got him backed up on the ropes, trying to ram it down his throat. Now things are getting rocking. He was doing so well. It's all over. Hands on his shoulders, they ringing his bell. You got Frog News Network, dude.
Make me include a note. I'll embarrass everybody.
Came first, 9th inning, second string, and they acting like they know. Hit his ass on slow and bullshit.
Weed guy, probably not the best. Re-upping with the weed guy.
Fuck is in my window.
I don't know. Makes sense to me.
These parasites, these leeches, with all their secret meetings, teaching all you fucking cretins about baby eating heathens. Believing in reason with no meaning is bullshit. Will Bird motherfuckers out here busting the grifts. Here we go.
Homosexual activities with friends.
Office about to get lit. Get the place in the bets. You know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go. I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in them bets, you know that stage is set.
Then they're gonna ask, if you meant nuts, why'd you send all the fucking peaches and eggplant emojis?
Wearing aviator glasses in your mother's basement.
Baby oil like Diddy do.
Because that's really pathetic.
Good night, guys.